Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got a comment? Feel free to email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And you can join us on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net, where we have 316 friends now as of this recording. Well, before we do get into today's show, I want to let you know about our sponsors. If you like the flexibility to live your life and do the things that are important to you, you'll like GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting's conferencing solutions, you can meet virtually with clients and business partners and reduce the cost associated with doing business. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use and doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start your free trial. Now let's get into today's episode of Box 13, Killer at Large.
Box 13. With the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of the Star Times. If $50,000 is of any interest to you, come to see me. If it's adventure you want, this is it. Because I want you to kill me. At present, my address is 756 South Marvin Boulevard. Please come alone. And don't tell anyone.
My address is 756 South Marvin Boulevard. Please come alone. And don't tell anyone about this letter. Simon Andrews. The letter was dated 2 days before I received it. And this was one time I wish sleet or snow or winds or anything had delayed the swift courier on his route.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's latest adventure, Killer at Large.
But this was written 2 days ago, Mr. Holliday.
I know it, Susie.
And you were out of town, so I couldn't get in touch with you.
Well, it wouldn't have made any difference. I couldn't have made it back in time anyway.
Gee, you're not going to follow up this letter, are you? It's obviously the work of a handle.
A what?
You know, one of those persons who writes letters and things.
Oh, a crank.
Oh, but you're not going.
I sure am, Susie.
Oh, no, you wouldn't kill him.
Oh, of course not. But I do want to know why Mr. Andrews wants himself killed. And I'm going to try and talk him out of it. The fact that I hadn't received the letter for 2 days had me worried. A lot of things can happen in 2 days. So I went to the address of Mr. Simon Andrews. It was night. There wasn't a light in the big house. I walked up the front stairs, punched the doorbell, and heard it ring inside.
Want somebody in there, Bud?
Huh? Where did you come from?
Never mind where I came from. The point is, where do you think you're going?
I was going inside, if the door opens.
Step back away from that door. With your hands up.
What's the idea?
It's not an idea, Bud. It's a reality. Awful real. Go on. Step away and keep your hands up. After you.
Thank you.
Straight ahead. Go on.
I'd still like to know what the score is.
About 10-0. And you're carrying the short end. Keep going. And stop at that door to the right. Get away from it.
Paulie, what's this?
This is something that I picked up on the front steps, Mr. Andrews.
Bring him over here. Was it you who rang the bell?
That's my usual way of getting into houses.
Who are you? What do you want?
You're Simon Andrews?
Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I said, who are you?
My name is Holliday, Dan Holliday.
Well, that means nothing.
What'll I do with him, Mr. Andrews?
Wait a minute, Torling. Holliday, what did you want here?
I came here to kill you.
Hey!
Watch him, Torling.
Oh, at your own request, Mr. Andrews. Look.
Keep your hands away from your pockets. Wait a minute. Let's see what you got in there.
Go ahead.
No gun. No knife.
I don't understand.
That makes three of us. A nice, cozy group. Here, I was going to give you this letter. I think you wrote it.
Yes. I wrote this. And you're box 13.
Yes, I am.
It's all right, Torling. Leave us alone.
Huh? You sure it's all right?
Yes, go on. Go back to your post.
Oh, sure. I'll be right outside the window.
Now, Mr. Andrews, what gives?
I'm sorry, Holliday, but I'm afraid.
Afraid of what?
Of being killed.
For a man who wanted to be killed, you're doing a lot of unnecessary work.
Why didn't you come when you got the letter?
I was out of town for a couple of days.
Oh, Please, sit down. Would you like a drink?
No, thanks.
I'll have one. You mind?
Go right ahead. It's your house.
When I wrote that letter, I wanted to be killed.
Why?
Maybe I'm crazy, I don't know, but I was sick of living, just sick of it. Can you understand that?
Not yet. I like to see flowers and bees and birds.
You're younger than I. Anyway, it was a kind of a morbid thrill, thinking that someone was actually going to kill me.
Did you really think I'd do it?
I didn't know. I took the chance.
Well, don't worry. My only reason for coming here tonight was to see what prompted this letter. And to talk you out of it, if possible.
I wish you'd come 2 days ago.
Why?
I want to live now. I've met someone, and I want to live.
Well, go right ahead.
I have already paid someone to kill me.
You what? You're crazy.
Not now. I was.
You can't be serious.
I am. I tell you, someone is going to kill me. Someone I paid $25,000 to do it. I don't know who, I don't know when or where, but he's going to kill me.
You're a fool. Go to the police.
I can't.
Your life depends on it.
I know, but I can't go. If I do, there'll be notoriety. I wouldn't have cared before, but I can't let that happen now.
You know, I've met some strange people through my ad in the Star Times. But if you want the trophy, there'll be no argument. Put it on your mantle.
Don't joke.
I'm not. You've got yourself into this. Now get out.
Maybe you can help. Sure, maybe you can.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Look, I'll pay you whatever you want. I can afford it.
Oh, sure, if you can afford $25,000 to get yourself killed. You can pay more to stay alive.
That's it.
But not to me. Look, Andrews, all you have to do is call off the deal. Let the killer keep the money, but call it off.
Don't you think I've thought of that?
Then what's the matter?
You didn't read this newspaper, did you?
No, why?
Look at the headline.
Benny Franklin slain. Big shot of gambling syndicate killed in underworld slaying. So, who cries about this?
Franklin was the man to whom I paid the money. I paid him to find someone to kill me.
Well, you really locked the door on yourself, didn't you?
Do something.
Huh? Just like that, huh?
Franklin was the only man who knew about our deal. I paid him in cash.
What do you think I could do?
Anything. Find the man who's going to kill me. I'll pay whatever you say.
Look, Andrews, it isn't a question of money. It's a question of looking through the well-known haystack for the equally well-known needle. I wouldn't know where to start. Take my advice and take a chance on going to the police. Hire private detectives, anything.
I can't. Please, Holliday, help me. Good heavens, you'd give help to a dog if it needed it. I'm grasping at straws. I'm afraid to leave the house. I hired Torling as a bodyguard. But sooner or later, the man who's out to kill me will get to me. Please, Holliday, please.
All right, Mr. Andrews. But if at any time I find things getting a little hot, I'll go to the police myself. That's the only way I'll make the deal.
All right, anything.
Now, you paid Franklin. Franklin evidently knew someone who would be willing to pull a trigger or use a knife. But you have no idea who.
None.
Then we've got to find a starting point. And the starting point is Benny Franklin.
He's dead, man. He's dead.
Very. But he must have left a family.
Of course. The paper says something about his mother.
I'll try to see her tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow? Why not tonight?
Because the police will be questioning her, watching her house. You'll have to wait until tomorrow. Then I'll see her. Well, I didn't like the setup. Andrews was a fool and obviously a psychopathic case. But he was in trouble. So the next morning, I saw Franklin's mother.
I can't tell anybody anything else. I told all I knew.
To the police?
Yes. Yes, to the police 100 times. My boy's gone. What good is all this?
I'm not the police, Mrs. Franklin.
Then why do you want to know about Benny?
Maybe I'm a friend of his.
I don't know you. I never saw you before.
Look, Benny once did me a favor. Call me a friend of his for that?
I don't know your name.
It's Holliday, Dan Holliday.
Where did Benny know you?
Well, let's not talk about that. What I want to know is, what did you tell the police?
Everything I could.
And what was that?
What do you expect me to tell you?
I don't know. Maybe who his friends were or weren't?
He was killed. He was killed by somebody who hated him. There was a man named Scott.
Scott? Did you ever see him?
No. I told the police. Benny saw him often. He always went out to meet him.
Why?
I don't know.
Was there anyone else?
No one I knew. Benny never brought his friends here.
No, I guess he wouldn't. Now, Mrs. Franklin, did your son recently come into, well, a pretty good sum of money?
Money? He always had plenty of money. I never took any of it. I wouldn't touch any of it.
No, of course not. But what did he tell you if he came in to say $25,000?
No, he wouldn't tell me. Why are you asking that?
I have my reasons, Mrs. Franklin. Maybe if we knew he had the money and if we could find out if he gave it to anyone, we might be able to learn who killed him. Don't you want to see his murder caught?
I don't know.
He was your son?
Yes. My son. I was ashamed of him for what he was, but I loved him.
Yes, I know. But think, Mrs. Franklin, did he have that much money recently?
No. No, I don't think he did.
You're sure of that?
When he had money, he spent it all at once.
Then if he'd had as much as $25,000 recently, he'd have put on quite a show, huh?
Yes. Yes, yes. But what good is this?
I don't know yet. And you can't tell me anything more about this Scott.
Well, Benny went to meet him the night he was killed.
All right, Mrs. Franklin, it's all for now. And thank you.
What are you going to do?
Look for a man named Scott who has suddenly come into $25,000. That was all. Look for a man named Scott who had a lot of money. A killer who would make himself hard to catch. Well, the starting place was one of Benny Franklin's favorite places. Then another. Then another. Then finally in the bar of a little cocktail lounge.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Quite a bit, I hope.
Huh? What'd you say?
Look, my name's Holliday. I'm a writer, and I thought perhaps you could help me out.
Oh, you want me to write something for you?
Oh, no. But I'm interested in Benny Franklin's case.
Oh, that's so.
Yeah, he came here quite a lot, didn't he?
Well, lots of people do.
Mm-hmm. But Franklin came here more than lots of people.
Maybe.
Can you tell me anything about him?
Mr. Holliday, there's something like 5 newspapers in this city. Pick up any one of them and read all about Benny Franklin.
That's not the kind of stuff I want.
Well, that's the only kind of stuff you get.
Even for this?
You could buy a lot of newspapers for that 50.
But not a lot of information.
What makes you think I can give you any?
Just 50.
What you want to know?
Anything you can tell me.
Well, I heard that Benny Franklin wasn't the big boy in the gambling outfit.
Oh? You sure?
That's what I hear. Also that there was a lot of talk around that Benny was getting too big.
I see. But I'm not interested in that part of the story.
What you mean?
I want to know about a man named Scott.
Don't know him.
You never heard of him, huh?
No.
Who is he? Where is he?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about that.
Scott's a trigger man, isn't he? A killer. Does that make you hysterical?
Well, yeah, kind of. But I'll tell you something, Mr. Holliday.
Go ahead. You've got $75 to fill up.
Sure. Well, you're looking for a guy named Scott.
That's right.
But you ain't gonna find him, ever.
What?
I'll tell you. And that's all I'll tell you. And then you leave here, Mr. Holliday.
All right, go ahead.
You ain't gonna find a guy named Scott, because there just ain't a guy named Scott.
And now, back to Killer at Large, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
So, there wasn't anyone named Scott. I didn't believe the bartender in that cocktail lounge. I didn't believe him because Franklin's mother had told me Scott saw a lot of Benny. But maybe Mrs. Franklin could be mistaken. I went home and thought it over. The more I thought, the less sense it made. According to the bartender, I was looking for a man who didn't exist. According to Simon Andrews, I was looking for a man who was going to kill him. Later that night, I decided to pay Mr. Andrews a visit. I was leaving my apartment building when...
Don't turn around. Just keep walking, Holliday.
What?
Just keep walking, I said.
What's the idea?
Turn in the alleyway. Go on. It's good enough. Now face the wall of the building with your hands up. Way up.
How's this for size?
Shut up and stay shut up. You got no gun.
Everybody seems surprised at that. Maybe I should carry a few guns to keep people happy.
It could be healthier for you. Now, why were you asking for Scott?
How do you know I was?
I got friends.
Lieutenant Barr?
Could be. Come on, Holliday. Why were you asking about Scott?
I have an uncontrollable curiosity about men having that name. I collect them.
I want to have to do that again, Holliday, and I want good answers.
That's the kind I don't have. Now, maybe you'll tell me who you are.
I could be Scott.
Yeah, I had that idea when you asked me to go for a walk with you.
Who sent you to that cocktail lounge?
No one.
I said I want good answers.
I gave you one. No one sent me to that bar.
You just happened to go in and ask about Scott.
That's practically it.
Who told you about him in the first place?
Franklin's mother?
You're a liar.
All right, I'm a liar. Who might argue with a gun?
Turn around.
Well?
Wait a minute. I want to get a good look at your face.
Do I look any better by matchlight?
I've never seen you before.
I wish you never had.
Who got you in town?
Who did what?
Come on. You ain't one of the mob. You know.
Well, I'm getting old.
You ain't got a gun. What's your pitch?
You know, I think we're going at this the wrong way. We're asking each other questions. Suppose we just settle down to a couple of true confessions.
Where you from?
Why?
I don't know what this pitch is, but... Who sent you out to get me?
Get you?
Yeah, you come in to put the finger on me.
And I didn't come in here alone. Look behind you.
What? Look.
All right, stand still.
Oh, don't. Please don't.
My, what a big difference a gun makes, depending on who holds it. Now, who are you?
My name is Nicky.
Last name Scott?
No.
Would you like to be caressed with your own gun?
No, please. Please tell Scott I won't do it anymore. Please give me a break this time. I'll get out of town. I'll do anything, but let me go.
Did you say I should tell Scott?
Sure. I was just going to put the bite on him once, just enough to set me up, and then I was going to blow town. Honest, tell him that.
Turn around. Face the wall with your hands up.
Sure.
Now, let's see what trinkets you're loaded with.
It's just a letter.
Uh-huh.
What are you going to do now?
Well, since you invited me for a walk and I didn't really want to go, I think I'd better turn you over to the police.
Oh, no, you won't.
Stop, come back here.
What's the matter?
Nothing, ma'am, nothing at all. Just a friendly game of tag.
What?
And I'm it. My charming vis-a-vis disappeared into the night and left me holding the bag. And the bag in this case was a letter. At first, I didn't pay any attention to it. Later, I looked at the address on it, thinking it would clear up some of this puzzle for me. And did it? Everything got worse. So I decided to go and see Mr. Simon Andrews.
Back again, Mr. Holliday?
Well, Mr. Torling, still the faithful watchdog?
Let's go in. Go ahead.
Where's Andrews?
Same place he was last night. This way. Holliday's back, Mr. Andrews.
Holliday, come in, come in. Torling, get back to your post.
Yes, sir.
Well, Holliday?
Well, Mr. Andrews?
For heaven's sake, man, don't just stand there. What happened? Where were you? Did you learn anything?
Which question do you want answered first?
Stop it. What are you trying to do?
I'm sorry. Mr. Andrews, what do you know about a man named Scott?
Scott? Scott? Name means nothing.
Nothing at all?
No.
I think Scott is the man we're looking for. The same Scott who might have killed Benny Franklin.
Scott killed Franklin? But why?
Could be for your $25,000.
I don't understand.
Put it this way. You went to Franklin, hired a killer. Franklin got in touch with the invisible Mr. Scott. Maybe Franklin tried to hold out on Scott, and being a man of very, very short temper, Mr. Scott erased Franklin.
Did you find him?
I don't know.
What do you know?
Just a minute, Andrews. I'm in this game on a rain check. Don't shout at me or I'll go back to the bench.
I'm sorry, Holliday, but you did learn something.
Do you know a man about 30, medium height, dark hair and eyes, small mustache, little scar over his right eye?
No, I don't.
Well, he knows you, because he had a letter for you. Here.
What's this?
Like I said, it's a letter.
But what's in it?
I don't like to be trite about this, but you could open it, you know.
Oh, of course.
Well?
Look. Read it.
You got until midnight tomorrow.
Midnight tomorrow?
The letter's not signed.
It doesn't have to be, Holliday. It's from the killer.
Why should he send you a letter?
Torturing me.
It could be.
Why didn't you turn that Nicky over to the police? Why didn't you do something?
What's your suggestion, Andrews? You put yourself in this hole, now climb out of it. I'm pulling out.
Oh, no, please. You're the only man who knows who's after me. Please, Holliday. Money's no object. Just find that man.
How?
You saw him.
Only once.
Yes, but you know what he looks like.
Look, let's turn this whole thing over to the police. Let them find him.
I can't. I told you before, I can't. Holliday, make one more try. Just one more.
And spend the rest of my life without my head?
Oh, take Torling with you.
And what about you?
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Oh, Mr. Andrews, you didn't think of a lot of things. One of them was how stupid can you be?
I know, but will you help?
On one condition.
What's that?
You paid $25,000 to have yourself killed. Probably because you couldn't take your own life. You wanted a thrill. Okay, you got it. You paid $25,000 for it. Now I'll pay $50,000.
What?
I got a check for $50,000 payable to any charity I name.
That's the only condition?
The only one under which I'll try to find the man.
All right. I'll do it. I'll write it immediately.
Good. Oh, and Mr. Andrews.
What?
The check had better be honored, or I won't go through with this.
I swear I'll honor it. Take it with you. Here. Deposit it first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Now, what are you going to do?
To find Mr. Scott. Find Mr. Scott. Oh, it sounded so easy. So I did the only thing I could. I went back to the little cocktail lounge and the same bartender.
Yes, sir. What can I... Oh, you.
Hello.
Well, what do you want now?
I'm looking for Nicky.
Nicky?
Yeah, Nicky. You know him?
I don't know nobody named Nicky.
You didn't know a man named Scott either.
I don't.
We'll pass that. But I want to find Nicky.
Well, even if I knew a Nicky, why should I tell you anything?
Because Nicky is due to get killed.
Killed?
That's it.
I don't believe you, mister.
You've got to. A man named Scott is after Nicky. I want to warn him.
There ain't nobody named Scott.
Nobody you care to admit you know. But there is a Scott, and he's after Nicky.
You on the level?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You'll find Nicky where he lives. 654 South Rogers.
Oh, one more thing. Is Nicky mixed up in that gambling syndicate?
I answered your question. The only one I'm going to answer. Now, you get out of here. Get out before the roof falls in on me.
Well, I was playing a hunch and playing it all the way through. I went to the address the bartender gave me, walked up the stairs, and came to a door that had Nicky's name on it. I started to knock. The door was open just a little. I pushed it all the way open and went in. I stood in the dark for a moment and walked toward a window. I stumbled over something on the floor. I lighted a match. Nicky.
He's real dead, Holiday. Real dead.
Tolling.
Mm-hmm. Tolling.
Scott.
Oh, have it your own way. You know, I thought you were never going to get here.
What are you doing here? Where's Andrews?
Give me that check he gave you.
You killed Nicky.
Good guess, Holiday. Hand me that check.
Okay, here.
Thanks. Now, Mr. Holiday, you're going to be very sorry you came here.
Am I? Tolling.
Thank you, Mr. Holliday.
Andrews.
Quite a gathering, isn't it? Nicky, Tolling, you?
Good evening, Mr. Scott.
Oh, you guessed, eh?
No, I figured it out.
Well, I'm sorry. I haven't got time to listen to it. My shot must have attracted attention.
3 men killed. You do all right. Franklin for trying to take over the gambling syndicate. Nicky for trying to blackmail you because he knew you killed Franklin.
And Tolling because I didn't trust him. I sent him here to kill Nicky, but I thought the check you had from me would prove too much for his loyalty. I must go now, Holliday. Thanks for finding Nicky for me. I had no idea who was blackmailing me.
So you used me for a patsy, cooked up that story.
Certainly. One of my boys would have been recognized. But you're a stranger. Understand?
And I've got news for you, Mr. Scott. The police will be looking for Andrews. You. The higher up in the gambling ring. The man who kept out of sight.
Looking for me?
That's right. Because you slipped. Listen. You see, I made a phone call to the police. That's why they're coming. Not because anyone heard your shot, but because I called them.
Bluff.
Oh, no. When I went to see you with that letter, I only described Nicky. I never mentioned his name. But you did. You said Nicky.
You...
Look out, he's got a gun! Look out for him! You got your $25,000 worth, Mr. Andrews.
Gee, Mr. Holliday, you certainly were smart to figure that out.
Ever play poker, Susie?
Is it like gin rummy?
No, not quite. But if you've ever played, you'll know how good it feels to draw to an inside straight and make it.
I don't get it.
Well, Susie, the police were not coming for Andrews. They were out on a call to stop a fight.
Huh?
Sure, I didn't think of that Nicky routine until I was talking with Andrews.
But you said you called the police.
Oh, I say a lot of things. Susie, a man has to say a lot of things when he's looking at his own tombstone.
Do you mean to tell me that awful man actually brought your tombstone along?
And I... What? Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd again stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, and this week's original story was written by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker, and production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. Well, I thought at first we had a silver medalist in the crazy Box 13 letters contest, but the gentleman turned out to be not so crazy after all. This was just an incredibly well-crafted mystery. The one thing that's kind of interesting throughout this series is that Alan Ladd's Dan Holliday character made a point of not carrying a gun. And I think one of the reasons for that is that Ladd's first film that made him a success was in This Gun for Hire, where he played kind of an anti-hero character who was a hired assassin. And the Dan Holliday character definitely takes him out of that gray area and opens the door perhaps to some of the roles he would get later on in his acting career. Well, I had quite a few people tell me who Fatty was, and as I was listening to the show, I knew I had an idea. I'd heard it before, and I would smack myself when I found out who it was, and I was right. I got about 5 different comments from different places, and thanks to everybody who commented. I won't read them all just so we don't repeat. But I'll read a couple. Adam, I really enjoy the Great Detectives in the Dragnet Show. About your question about the voice of Fatty in this episode, I thought you'd recognize it right away. It's Alan Reed, known to old-time radio fans as Pasquale from Life with Luigi, and to everyone else as Fred Flintstone. Of course, Pasquale. Luigi, my friend. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I don't do imitations that often, but that's a very memorable voice. Different than Fred Flintstone, but Reed was definitely one of those actors who could do a lot of different voices that you wouldn't necessarily be able to identify him. But I think that he's right, and so is everyone else. I'll read one more comment here because there's also a suggestion. Hello, I'm fairly new to listening to your podcast. I've come to look forward to your excellent commentary at the beginning and end. In regards to Box 13 this week, I always thought the voice of Fatty sounded like Fred Flintstone's. For future series, I would love to hear Richard Diamond's Rogues Gallery or The Saint. Well, all of those are definitely planned to do. Rogues Gallery the soonest. We should be getting started with that in 7 or 8 months on Tuesdays. So be looking for that. And thanks for the comments and everybody who helped with the suggestions. Jeffrey and Ernest and also Nathan and anybody else that I missed. Thanks so much for helping me out on that. One thing my wife brought up regarding the Candy versus Nero vote. Well, what happens if the Podcast Alley vote is a tie? In the event of a tie on the Podcast Alley vote, we will have a sudden death final vote on Facebook if there is in the unlikely event of a tie. And that's if you want to learn about the 2 great detectives we will be choosing between next month, that's candyvnero.greatdetectives.net. We have a comment from Kathleen says, Adam, and this is regarding an ebook release I mentioned a few weeks back. Kathleen writes, Adam, I started reading Donna Fletcher Crowe with her Lord Danvers series. Loved it. Lost track of her afterwards. Thanks for the heads up on her free ebook. Reading it now. Well, thanks so much, Kathleen. She took about a 10-year hiatus between books. And she's coming back this year with a new release, start of a series called The Monastery Murders, a very private grave. It was actually out in Britain, Great Britain, before it came out in the U.S. She writes a lot of stories set over in the United Kingdoms and that area of the world. Lived there several years and has got a definite love of that area. And actually took a break from writing mysteries to write 3 historical epics. So, thanks so much for that. She also goes on to say, also, I think the Batman TV show with Adam West, when I hear the transition music on Let George Do It, or was it Box 13? I think it was Box 13, because I'm kind of reminded of that in that intro. I don't know if there's anything in Let George Do It that would quite have that effect. Now today's episode of Jeff Regan, The Little Man's Lament.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of The Little Man's Lament.
They called it Margate Mansion, but the name didn't fit. It was a pile of old cement and cracked stucco held up by a half a dozen tired palm trees. The people inside didn't fit either. A crusty old lady who talked backwards, a redhead with an urge to travel fast. But it was Junior who won first prize. He was half Einstein and half Hollywood playboy. Only when this boy played, it was with poison. It started on a Tuesday. I was headed down Taft Avenue on my way to the laundromat. I had a date with a washing machine and a blonde cashier named Gloria. That's when a cab pulled up beside me and the Lyon hopped out. He was blowing sparks out of a fat cigar. I could tell by the 50-cent smell that we had a new client.
Oh, Jeffrey, my boy, I'm glad I caught you.
Get back in the cab, Fatso. I'm busy.
But I have to talk to you. I was just going up to your apartment.
Have a good time. I'll be out all day.
Now, Jeffrey, is that any way to talk? After all I've done for you? After the many opportunities I've given you to help your fellow beings in distress?
I've worked 3 weeks without a rest. I gotta wash my socks.
Wash your socks? You can talk about a thing like that when I'm here to present you with a golden opportunity? An opportunity to demonstrate our humanitarian sentiments? A chance to lift one who's in trouble?
How much did you lift from him?
$100, and it's not a him, it's a her. Oh, it's really a simple job, Jeffrey. Very simple. I've just been over there. Lovely old house, fine old family. The Margates, flower of the old South.
Gone to see.
Well, yes. But you know how it is with descendants of old families. Fresh young growth choked back by the weeds of the old family stock. The fresh new plant smothered by decay and ruin.
Try Vigoro.
Regan, you don't seem to understand. We've been retained by Mrs. Margate. It's about her nephew, Hilary Margate. Strange youth, very strange youth indeed. If Mrs. Margate needs protection from him, I tell you it's a very serious matter.
Well, so's my laundry.
Regan, will you listen to me?
There's another choice?
Yes. See Mrs. Margate, root out the facts.
Get her a gardener.
She doesn't need a gardener. She needs you, and don't give me any more trouble.
Okay, sweetheart. Here.
Wait a minute. What's it?
My laundry. Put the shirts and socks in a washing machine. Put 2 bits in the slot. And stay away from the blonde. She doesn't like cigar smoke.
Regan, this means you will see Mrs. Margate?
Don't try to be coy. You knew I'd see her the minute you stepped out of that cab. I walked up Vine and turned right past Franklin. All the places up there are old, but Margate Mansion was old when William S. Hart was Gene Autry. A bunch of turrets made out of wood that termites wouldn't look at. But I was looking at what was standing in the front bay window looking at me. Red hair and wide eyes and a complexion like skim milk. She was what answered the door when I twisted the old-fashioned bell.
Hello. I saw you from the window.
Yeah, I saw you seeing me.
Come in. Come in, please.
Thanks.
I hope you don't mind the disorder. I'm afraid I don't. Your name?
Regan.
Oh. Sit here, Mr. Regan. Please don't mind the dust on the sofa. No one nice ever comes, so it doesn't matter. I like you. I want you to stay.
It shows.
You're not married or anything like that, Mr. Regan.
Nothing like that.
Oh, that's nice. I'm not married either, Mr. Regan.
I heard it was Mrs. Margate.
Oh, that's my aunt. I'm not married at all. Mr. Regan, you didn't just come to see my aunt.
I've got a lot of time.
Oh, I've been foolish again, haven't I? Sometimes I get so mixed up. I'm...
Oh, wait a minute. Wait.
Yes, Mr. Regan.
What's your name?
Gwendolyn?
Mrs. Margate's niece.
Yes.
Hilary's your brother?
Yes, Mr. Regan. All those questions.
Business.
Business?
International Detective Bureau. Your aunt's on the line for $100 worth.
A detective?
Well, that's polite for it.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that. You shouldn't have told me that at all.
Suppose you tell me some things.
I'm mixed up, Mr. Regan. I can't tell him.
Gwendolyn!
That's my aunt.
Did I hear the front door bell?
Don't say anything. Don't tell her.
I did hear the front door. Well, Gwendolyn, who is this man?
Regan.
Regan? Oh, you're the man they call the Lion's Eye. I've been expecting you. I'm gardening.
I should have figured.
What? Oh, I have a green thumb, as they say. Follow me. Go to your room, Gwendolyn.
Yes, Annie.
Gwendolyn?
Yes, Annie, I'm going.
She went all right, like a rabbit at a greyhound race. Only I wasn't sure this rabbit could stay ahead of the dogs. But right then I had another problem, keeping up with Mrs. Margate. It wasn't the way she walked, it was her talk that winded me.
We'll go to the garden. My niece and my nephew, problems that weigh heavily on my heart, Mr. Regan. Oh, this way. Family collapsing and falling to ruin. Just 3 Margates left. Myself and the 2 children, Gwethelyn and Hilary. Only 52 years old with such responsibilities.
Hillary?
No, myself, of course. 52. But Hilary is the real problem. You follow me?
Right behind you.
What? Oh, yes, out this door. The garden. There. Do you see that pool by the date palm?
Uh-huh.
Fish. Carp, Mr. Regan. He concocts things. Hilary brews things, poisons. One day he fed something he had brewed to Hilary F. Margate, Sr., the carp, and he turned bright green.
Hilary?
The carp. We found him next morning floating belly up, stark bright green. Hilary F. Margate, Sr., the carp. We name our fish after the dear departed members of our family.
Nice custom.
Yes. Hilary poisoned the carp when he was only 146 years old.
The carp?
Yes. Come along. Hilary was only a boy at the time. Such a problem, Mr. Regan. Oh, here, my vegetable garden. Have an onion, Mr. Regan. Delicious.
Yeah. Look, Mrs. Margate.
Eat the onion, Mr. Regan. George is my gardener.
I'm over here, Mrs. Margaret.
Oh, well, you can go out back and cut the weeds, George. Mr. Regan and I have some private matters to discuss.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent man, George. Excellent. And be sure you get them all, George. We must be rid of the weeds.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am.
Now we're alone, Mr. Regan. The onion, go on, eat it. As I was saying, Hilary, that boy, such a problem.
Yeah, as you were saying.
Yes. Good, aren't they?
Mrs. Margate, what is it you want me to do?
Do? Well, I want you to look after Hilary.
I was told you wanted protection.
Well, it's the same thing, isn't it?
No. Hilary needs a nursemaid. That's not our line.
No, see here, Mr. Regan. International Detective Bureau has already agreed to handle my case. Mr. Lyon himself accepted my check.
He'll accept anyone's check.
But he promised to help.
Well, then talk to him.
I'm talking to you. I'm explaining.
You're explaining nothing. You've given me a lot of double talk, and I have a feeling that's all you want to give me. Now, make sense.
All right. You're going to force me to say what I hoped never to say to anyone. Not anyone. My life is in danger.
I can believe that.
My tea. Yesterday, I noticed the odor of almonds.
I'm listening.
No, I didn't drink it naturally. Naturally. Hilary brewed that tea, Mr. Regan. My nephew.
Now you've said something. Where is he?
Ocean Park, the shooting gallery.
Shooting gallery?
Yes, he's strange, very strange. He brews things, collects guns, practices shooting. You won't like him.
Suppose I go talk to him.
Well, you'd better. As I've said, Mr. Regan, I don't wish to be murdered.
I headed the car down La Brea to Olympic and then out to the Ocean Park Pier. It was afternoon business, popcorn and sailor style. The shooting gallery had one customer, a kid in a corduroy sport coat with a face like a cantaloupe out of season. He was taking shots at the little swinging targets. You didn't need the family album to figure him for Hilary Margate. I walked over, but he didn't take the gun from his shoulder.
Leeks.
Come again?
Leeks. Scallions.
My name's Regan.
Allium ascalonicum, Mr. Regan. Onions. You've been eating them.
So?
This suggests you're the private detective hired by my aunt. Bullseye?
You read palms, too?
I fancy myself an amateur detective, Mr. Regan. I seldom miss.
I notice.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Regan, I'm interested in hiring you myself.
Well, that's a switch.
I think there's going to be a murder.
Anybody I know?
Yes, my aunt.
Who plays the heavy?
The heavy?
Who's going to kill her?
I am.
Practicing?
I don't need practice, Mr. Regan.
Even experts get the chair.
Possibly.
All right, Junior, let's start making sense.
Very well, Mr. Regan. My aunt is a domineering autocrat. Actually, I should hate to kill her, but I feel I must. To protect myself, you understand.
From what?
You know, I dabble in poisons, Mr. Regan. I am empoisonné, as the French say, poisoner. When I was 15...
I heard that one, yeah. Hilary F. Margate, Sr., the carp.
Oh, he died a horrible death.
My regrets. Now get to the point.
Ours is an evil household, Mr. Regan. The last of the Margates, a decaying race. My aunt, for example, and Gwethelin.
I met her.
Then you understand that something must be done. This is an urgent matter, Mr. Regan. It would be wise to take my case.
One Margate for a client's too many.
Very well, Mr. Regan. But you want information. Perhaps I'll give it to you tomorrow. I'll phone you. As they say on the radio, you may save a life. Possibly your own.
It made a real funny joke the way he said it. Only I wasn't laughing. And neither was he. I got in my car and started for town to tell the Lyon he'd been underpaid. All the way in, I kept getting a picture of a mechanical rabbit going around a track. I tried putting Gwethelin's face on it, and Mrs. Margate's, then Hillary's. The others didn't fit. Gwethelin's did. I was still thinking about it when I parked on Hill Street and got out to walk. And that's when I put another face on the rabbit, my own. The guy who fell in behind me and started following was no greyhound, but he had squeaky shoes that slowed down when I slowed down. We stayed together for a block, and when I turned left toward the office, he turned left. I wondered if he was an amateur. I found out when I sidestepped into an alley and pulled him in after me. All right, Buster, this is where you get off.
Hey, say, what the devil?
Come on, who hired you?
Let me go.
Give me some answers.
Talk. You want muscles, huh? Muscles? All right. I got
him. He had them all right, and he knew where to use them. He had a bald head, and he used that, too, right in the middle of my stomach. I shouldn't have bent double, but I did. It was a setup. The next blow sent me around the fender of a truck parked in the alley. I went to my knees. When I came up, it was too late. The bald head was gone. But someone else was there.
Mr. Regan.
It was Gwethelin Margate.
Mr. Regan, you should be careful. You all right?
He was following me.
No, Mr. Regan, no, he wasn't. I was going to your office. He was following me.
She was ready to talk, but the fog in my head wouldn't let me listen. I got her around the corner into a bar. She waited until the waiter brought the drinks.
2 Bourbon Street, Mr. Regan. And if I may say so, this is a lovely tomato you're escorting to my humble palate.
You said so.
And may I say, Mr. Regan, I'm also partial to redheads. On account of my first love was a redhead. She played second flute in our orchestra.
Sure. Keep the change.
That was when I was with Stokowski. The Hollywood Bowl, how well I remember. Me and my fiddle. We made together beautiful music. Me and the fiddle, you understand, not the redhead. She gave me nothing but a cold shoulder on account she was hot for a guy that played bass.
Come on, you told me this story yesterday.
You don't wish to hear the story of my life, Mr. Regan? Well, it was the same way with Mr. Stokowski. The artist is lost in the world of today.
All right. Now we can talk.
I don't know, Mr. Regan.
Who was following you?
It doesn't matter. I'm used to it, Mr. Regan.
Who was the mug?
It doesn't matter, Mr. Regan. It's too late anymore. I thought...
You thought what?
I thought you'd help me, Mr. Regan. I was on my way to your office.
Why?
There's going to be trouble, Mr. Regan. Serious trouble.
What says so?
Everything. Hillary, my aunt, they're all acting so strangely. And those people who come to the house.
People? Who?
I don't know. The man who was following me is one of them. Something strange is going on, Mr. Regan. Something terrible.
You still haven't told me anything.
Don't you see? It isn't anything I can tell you. It's a feeling. A terrible feeling. Everything's wrong.
I've got to have facts, lady.
I don't... Wait. There's one thing.
Yeah?
The gardener, Mr. Hendricks.
George?
Yes. My aunt knows him, Mr. Regan. Better than just a gardener. Something else.
What?
George has been in prison. I know he's been in prison. I heard him say something once on the telephone.
To who?
I don't know. So much I don't know.
That makes 2 of us.
You don't believe me. You've got to believe me. Something terrible's going to happen.
Sure. Hillary's going to kill your aunt.
Hillary? Oh, no. That's not it at all. It's me they're going to kill, don't you see? They're going to kill me.
After that, I couldn't get anything out of it that made sense. I loaded her in a cab and then walked over to Pershing Square to feed the pigeons. Maybe something would come to me. Nothing did, except the pigeons. After a while, I went over to the Examiner morgue to look up George Hendricks. There was nothing, not a word. But the Lyon has ways of finding those things out, so I went back to the office. The Lyon had information, all right, but not the kind I expected.
Regan, where have you been? I've been calling every saloon in the city.
You got the wrong one.
I often wonder why I hired you.
Okay, Fatso, why the steam?
I'll tell you why. Because you were supposed to be on the Margate case, that's why.
What do you think I've been doing?
I know what you're going to be doing. You're going to get out to Margate Mansion right now and fast. They just found Hilary Margate in his room. He's been shot through the head.
This is CBS, and you're listening to The Story of the Little Man's Lament. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. Here's a special word for those of you who are interested in setting up a retirement fund. One that will permit you to have some of the good things of life before you're too old to enjoy them. Join the payroll savings plan where you work and invest in United States savings bonds. Under this plan, your firm sets aside whatever sum you name from each paycheck and uses the money to buy savings bonds for you. Buy United States bonds and keep them. And now, back to tonight's story of the Little Man's Lament and Jeff Regan, investigator.
Nothing made sense. There were 3 Margates. The old lady, her nephew Hilary, and his sister, Gwethelyn. And all 3 of them wanted to hire me to stop a murder. Then the Lyon tells me Hilary Margate has just been shot. Well, one thing was sure. With 3 people to work for, one of them was bound to turn up dead. I put the Lyon to work looking up the gardener, George Hendricks. Then I hopped in the car and headed out to the Margate place off Franklin Avenue. By the time I got there, it was turning dark. Out front, a black and white Nash said, "Police," in big letters. But when the old lady opened the door, she acted as though she'd never heard of police.
Oh, Mr. Regan, please come in. I'm sorry you didn't get to meet him. Hilary, strange boy.
I met him.
You did? Oh, this way, Mr. Regan. Well, it's no matter. It was inevitable. Hilary's uncle, my husband, before he died, warned me something like this would happen. He was a young fool, Hilary.
How did it happen?
Happen? Oh, with a gun, of course. How else could one shoot oneself except with a gun? In here, Mr. Regan, we won't be bothered by them. Sometimes police can be so nosy. Do sit down. We shall have tea.
With or without almonds?
I know what you're thinking, Mr. Regan, but I'm sure it had nothing to do with it.
What did?
Just a moment, Mr. Regan. There's someone at our door. Well, Gwethelyn?
I was just coming to see you, Auntie. Thought you'd want me to tell Mr. Regan about Hilary.
Yes, a good idea. Mr. Regan, I'll let Gwethelyn tell you. She was here at the time. Oh, she was a lovely woman. Gwethelyn's mother, my late sister. Well, go ahead, child. Go ahead.
I got home about 5.
Better sit down, child. No, not there. Here.
Yes, Auntie. Well, Mr. Regan, Hilary was in the gun room reading. I went in to talk to him, but he ordered me out of the room. He said he didn't want to be disturbed. He was concentrating.
Go on.
I left the room. A couple of minutes later, I heard a shot. When I went back, he was there. Hilary. On the floor, dead.
Then you called the police.
I told Auntie. She called them.
They've been so nice, the police. They promised not to disturb me any more than necessary. Wasn't that nice?
They're, in his room now?
With Hilary. Dear Hilary.
Yeah, he won't need me anymore. I think I'd better be going.
Oh, yes, of course. Gwethelyn, see Mr. Regan to the door like a good girl.
Yes, honey.
And come again sometime soon, Mr. Regan. We shall have tea together.
Thanks.
This way, Mr. Regan. Mr. Regan, I've got to talk to you this way quickly.
What's on your mind?
About Hilary. Something he did tonight.
Like what?
When he came home, before that, he had a book. A big book. He was reading it when it happened. Why would he read a book and then shoot himself?
You got me. What was the title?
I don't know. But when the police came, the book was gone.
Where did he buy it?
I don't know that either. I'm sure it's important, Mr. Regan. I'm sure of it. You don't think it's important?
I don't know. I reach for answers. Sometimes they come up air.
I know something else, Mr. Regan. It's about George Hendricks, our gardener.
Yeah?
He disappeared this afternoon after it.
Go on.
Andy sent for him when the police arrived, but he wasn't in his room. The police were angry. They think he might have done it.
And you think so, too?
I'm not sure, Mr. Regan. I'm not sure of anything now.
She turned and ran into the house and left me with a lot of night air and cool breeze. If Hendricks had taken a powder, the police would check that angle. That left me with a book. A very big book. I walked down Franklin toward my car. Up ahead, I saw a small man in a black suit locking up a shop door. Over his head, a sign said Franklin Avenue Bookshop. That did it. I caught him before he closed up.
I beg your pardon.
You know a Hillary Margate lives up the street?
Yes, I know him. Why?
Was he in today?
He's a regular customer.
Was he in? Yes or no?
Yes.
Did he buy a book?
No.
You sure?
Positive. He asked for a volume we didn't have.
What volume?
I don't remember the title because we didn't have it in stock. It was a textbook.
Textbook?
Yes, on horticulture. Plants.
Plants?
Does that mean something to you?
Yeah. It could explain why the Margate family has gone to seed. It was crazy, but it was beginning to untangle. I headed for my car up the street. Before I touched the starter, I found out I had company.
All right, Regan, drive.
The gun in my back told me he meant it. One look in the mirror told me he was George Hendricks. Well, you're calling him. Where to?
Your apartment. I want to talk. Have a chair, Regan. It's your house.
Thanks.
I talk. You sit and listen.
I can stand.
I say sit down.
It's your party, Hendricks.
There's been an accident at the Margate house.
I heard.
Hillary shot himself.
That right?
You think different?
Changed my mind.
I didn't kill him, Regan.
Who said you did?
I never could get used to confinement.
Oh. San Quentin?
Sandstone, Minnesota.
Tell me more.
Listen, Regan, the police don't like guys with a record.
What was your rap, Hendricks?
Checks, something like that. Forgery.
So why tell me?
You're moving in my direction, Regan. I don't like it.
Is that why you ran?
There's something else.
Yeah?
The name. It isn't Hendricks. It's Margate.
What's that?
Freehold Quincy Margate.
No wonder you changed it.
There were several reasons.
Yeah, Old South family.
Listen, Regan, you gotta believe me. I didn't kill Hillary. I didn't have anything to do with it.
You know a big guy, bald head with a stupid face?
Morley. He works at the Margate place part-time.
What's his job?
Flunky. He works in the garden with me.
When he isn't tailing the girl.
Leave me out of that part of it.
Well, do I answer that?
Yes, but watch what you say.
Regan.
Regan, I expected to hear from you sooner. What's happened to you? Regan, are you there?
Yeah, just got here.
What's the matter? Someone with you?
You're a genius.
Well, I just found out about Hendricks.
You guessed it.
You mean he's there?
Go on.
Listen, that's not his real name, Regan. He's a Margate. Freehold Quincy Margate. Age 46, height 5'11", weight 180.
Get to the point.
Well, about that prison record, quite correct. It was 8 years ago. Charge?
Narcotics violation.
Well, yes, but be careful. He'll hear you.
No, he won't. He just went out the door, fast. I had what I needed. I averaged 50 down Franklin and pulled up in front of the Margate place 10 minutes later. It was dark and it looked empty, like a beer can after a picnic. I found an open window and crawled in. It was the gun room, and that meant I didn't have to go much farther. But somebody changed my mind for me when the door suddenly opened, and a hunk of orange lightning stabbed in my direction. I ducked in the chair next to me, toppled over. I couldn't wait for the next one.
Let me go!
Drop it!
You're hurting my...
That's better. Now, some lights.
Mr. Regan, I thought you were one of them.
I'm not. That book Hillary was reading. I'm in a hurry, baby.
You already know, don't you, Mr. Regan? All right. I didn't see it closely. It had pictures of plants.
Like the ones in your backyard?
Yes. I didn't know what it meant until...
Until Hillary got it, and then you were too scared to talk. Why?
Mr. Regan, Hillary didn't poison my aunt's tea. They only said he did so they could kill me and then blame him for it. That way they'd be rid of both of us.
Yeah, but Hillary caught on too quick.
That's why they killed him, Mr. Regan. Oh, don't let them know I know.
It won't matter now, baby. I circled around the house in a hurry. Empty. Then I tried the garden. That's when I saw it. 50 yards behind the house. A strange light at first, then something red that began to grow. Then smoke and more smoke. I ran for the back of the garden in the flames. She saw me coming.
Stand back, Mr. Regan.
Maybe tomorrow, Mrs. Margate.
I warn you, Regan. Stand back.
You hired me, remember?
Take one more step, Mr. Regan, and Morley will kill you.
You figured he'd be around? Put that gun down, Morley. The smoke's getting in your eyes.
No! Shoot him, Morley! Shoot him!
You're too late for that. I drove across the column of smoke and caught his arm as he tried to find me with that gun. I got to him first. I owed him something for what he'd given me in that alley, and I paid him back with interest. The old lady just stood there and glared at me, the fire reflecting in her eyes. It took me 10 minutes in my best sport coat to stop the blaze. But the price was cheap, because where the fire had been was a nice pile of Exhibit A. It looks just like an ordinary plant, but the police call it marijuana. Somebody spotted the smoke and called the fire department. The police were right behind them and loaded the last of the Margates into the wagon. And it was like Gretz said. She was scheduled to turn up poison, and I was supposed to testify that Hillary had done it. Only Hillary caught on too fast, and they gave him a bullet for his trouble. And after I finished up at headquarters, I went to the office and filled the Lyon in. He was disappointed.
And this fella the police picked up at the depot, this Hendricks, he wasn't the culprit we were looking for?
He was under the old lady's thumb like the rest of the family. She blackmailed him into growing this stuff. With his record, he couldn't afford to squawk.
He couldn't afford to squawk. How do you think I feel?
You got a check for $100, didn't you?
Well, yes, I did.
She did pay you, didn't she?
Well, you see, Jeffrey, that is, she gave me a check when I first went out there for $100.
You said that.
Well, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but, well, you see, her brother-in-law...
You mean...
Well, that is, Hendricks did have a prison record for narcotics violation, but, well, it seems upon examining the records more closely, there was an earlier sentence for,
Bad checks.
Yes. It seems to run in the family.
I don't get paid this week.
Go on. Quit me. Kick a man when he's down.
Oh, stop it.
You know I never withhold payment when I have it. Right now I don't have it. Maybe next week.
If you wait 2 weeks, it'll be Thanksgiving.
What's that mean?
You can have the end of the turkey I've been getting.
Jeffrey, you're not being kind. Remember my heart.
I'll try.
Oh, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Now, here's 25 cents.
For what?
Go over and pick up your laundry. I forgot to wait for it.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by William Frug and William Fifield, directed by Sterling Tracy, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking, and inviting you to be with us again next Wednesday at 9 for more suspense and mystery and adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. You know, the beginning of this particular episode with Regan's pre-show monologue reminded me a little bit of the Gerald Moore, Philip Marlowe episodes. And I think this series, as I listened to it, to me, this Frank Graham, Jeff Regan run is 4 parts Rogues Gallery, 2 parts Philip Marlowe, and 1 part the original Jeff Regan. I do think CBS made a fantastic casting choice. There's some great chemistry, I think, between Frank Graham and Frank Nelson in the roles of Regan and the Lion. I love the part at the laundromat where the Lion comes up and they have their little spat before Regan agrees to go, and the Lion is like, so you'll go see them? And Regan said, you knew I was going to see them from the moment you got there. So it suggests that there's this very interesting relational dynamic. In the first few episodes of the Jack Webb Jeff Regan, you'll remember that there was always, there was this question, why do you do it? I don't know. But clearly, you got a sense that there really is a much better dynamic and chemistry between our two main characters that does make it a worthwhile listening experience. All right, we have 3 quick comments off Podcast Alley. They're all much appreciated. Love it. Great show. And great show, great detectives, and Adam is a great host. Well, thank you so much for your comments. They are much appreciated. Now let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It. One Against the City.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. One Against the City, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If it comes out trouble, dead end, no matter which way, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, a city that's lost so much of its conscience that it's allowing itself to be ruled by 3 cynical, ruthless men. That's the gimmick I hope will intrigue you. Thanks to one other citizen who feels as I do, I can now hire a man of strength and courage who's interested not only in money, but in the challenge of a very uneven but worthy battle. I've tried to fight this.
Fight this thing alone, me and my puny 1-cylinder newspaper. All I got out of it was threats, a few expert beatings, and a reputation as a crackpot idealist. Come on in, Mr. Valentine. The water isn't fine nor clean, but you may be the kind who doesn't mind swimming against the tide. It's signed Sam Morgan.
Let me have that book, see?
Here. Intrigued?
Slightly fascinated. Sherondale Chronicle, the voice of Sherondale. Population 70,000 and growing strong.
70,000 people goose-stepping for 3 Little Caesars? Isn't it just possible, George, that Mr. Morgan may be letting his journalistic fervor run away with him?
Uh-huh.
Well, what about the mayor, the guardians of the law, the rest of the men of goodwill?
Well, that's what makes it so fascinating, Angel.
Oh, okay. When do we pack and go to meet this crusading editor?
I'll hop the first train to Sherondale. Since we may be gone for a while, you better clean up a few details here and mosey along later.
Okay.
Check in at the biggest hotel, Brooksy, and I'll be in touch with you.
Sherondale, next stop, Sherondale.
Ain't you kind of cold out here on the platform, Jack?
I'm getting off as soon as the train stops.
You don't say so, Jack.
Hey, now look, Buster, there's something about you I don't like. So don't make me take you apart to find out what it is.
This is come out of your drink.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I don't slug my cough and varnish out of bottles.
That's so bad, Jack. Because I brought this bottle special for you.
Hey, look, what are you trying to do?
You're getting off here. And don't make me carve things in your face. I don't like the sight of blood.
Hey, well, it's not going to be my blood, Buster.
Get off, I said. Get off. Happy landing, Jack. And stay out of Sherondale.
Valentine, I can't understand it. No one could have found out you were coming here.
Yeah, well, nevertheless, Morgan, you can see I received a very enthusiastic welcome to Sherondale.
Gee, did you really get pushed off the train, mister?
Johnny, didn't I tell you to go upstairs to bed?
And you mean you only got your face scratched up like that?
Johnny.
I got a few other bruises, son, where they don't show.
Well, you're lucky the train was slowing down.
Bet you it was one of those gangsters you're always talking about, huh, Dad? I bet you.
Oh, Johnny, do as your mother says. Go to bed.
Aw, gee. Okay.
Well, I suppose I should tell you how sorry I am, Valentine. But after all, I knew what I was getting into.
The important point now, Morgan, is how did it leak out about me?
Well, Mrs. Sharon is out of the question. She put up $25,000 for this whole campaign.
You may as well know it, Sam. I called up Len Tucker and warned him.
What do you say?
I wanted this man scared away.
Oh, looks like we're a house divided.
Why shouldn't I, Sam? For 10 years now, you've been running for mayor, butting your head against the stone wall, getting yourself beaten up.
Ruth, we've been through this before, but Valentine here, he could have been killed.
You'll have to believe me, Mr. Valentine. I'm sorry. I didn't dream they'd do anything vicious. I was thinking about our home and our future. You just heard Johnny talking about gangsters as though this was some kind of game we were playing. You heard him, Mr. Valentine.
Yes, Mrs. Morgan, I heard him.
Sam, give it up. Nobody else cares what happens in Sharondale. Why should you?
Yeah, because I'm me, Ruth. I don't think I'll ever change.
It's destroying us. That's all I know.
You still want to go on playing ball, Morgan?
You heard what I told my wife. After what happened to you, I didn't think that you...
Well, just suppose I'm weak of mind and I don't care if I'm pushed off train. Now, what's the setup on this charming bird?
Well, as I said in my letter, through the years, 70,000 upstanding citizens have allowed themselves to become the pawns of 3 men.
And I guess it's safe to presume these 3 characters work together.
Yep. They've got Sharondale neatly parceled out. And there's enough graft to make the authorities look the other way.
I see. Who are they?
Oh, Big Ed Corrigan runs a gambling, backroom card parlor, slot machine, and bookie joints.
Go on.
Leonard Tucker, a very suave gentleman, sells protection to businessmen, big and small. Ain't no better than to say no to his salesman.
And number 3?
Yeah, a truly incredible character who calls himself Wally Wallpaper.
Oh.
Yeah, came by the name because of the loud ties he wears. Buys them by the dozen. He has his big pudgy hands on everything that happens after dark. Nightclubs, roadhouses, things like that. Ostensibly, he's merely the owner of a plush cafe called the Barrel House.
And you, with Mrs. Sharon's $25,000, expect to sweep all of this clean?
She's a wonderful woman.
One of the first families, I guess.
The first family. Her grandfather founded Sharondale. She knows how to fight back, too. You'll believe me when you hear the plan she's got.
Okay, the sooner the better. Have you got it straight, Brooksy?
Yes, George. I'm not supposed to know you from a hole in the wall.
That's right. In fact, if you see any holes in the wall that even faintly resemble me, don't look that way. Sharondale's Crime Incorporated knows I'm here, and you can bet they'll try to keep on my tail.
Well, just how do I promote a job in that honky-tonk, the Barrel House?
Well, Brooksy, I understand the quaintest character since Dracula was a boy runs the joint. He glorifies in the name of Wally Wallpaper.
Huh?
Yeah. From all descriptions, Wally fancies himself a ladies' man. So, you're a lady. Use your own discretion. Try to get a job as a hat check girl, or in the chorus, or behind a cigarette tray. I'll tell you why later.
Ours is not to reason why. Ours is to go and meet Wally Wallpaper. But just one thing, sweetie. If we're supposed to be total strangers, how do we communicate with each other? By thought waves?
Well, I'm not going to call you at the hotel anymore. They may trace the call.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, exactly at noon, I'll be making a call on the one and only telephone booth in the cigar store at the depot. Now, you be the annoyed young lady who can't wait for me to get through. Pick it up from there.
Okay. But be careful, darling. You happen to be one stranger who's good for me.
Well, that puts me in the glass with fresh vegetables. But don't you worry, Angel. I'll be all right. But I may even see a glimmer of hope for the home team after I talk to Mrs. Sharon.
Don't stare at me like that, young man. You're probably thinking, isn't that a bloodthirsty, rip-snorting plan to come from the lips of an old woman?
You should take it with reading tea leaves, Mrs. Sharon.
Don't you think it would work, Valentine?
Well, I'm not quite the clairvoyant that Mrs. Sharon is.
Oh, poppycock, of course it'll work. It's the oldest maneuver in the world. You know what always happens when thieves fall out.
Well, there could be enough noise to wake up even a sleeping city.
Exactly.
Tucker, Big Ed Corrigan, and that larcenous clown Wally Wallpaper. If each one thinks the other two are trying to poach on his territory, the three of them will be at each other's throats. There'll be an unholy clamor.
Don't you see, Valentine? I'll have a real chance at the polls next month. If enough people wake up and are willing to do something about it.
Oh, it's all swell theory. But if those three are as thick as bubbles in a glass of champagne, it's going to take some doing to turn them against each other.
There's $25,000 in Sam's account in the bank to turn theory into fact. If any innocent people get hurt, we'll take care of them. I'll leave the details to you.
Okay. Let's give it a whirl.
Good.
I like you, young man. You're a fighter.
Yeah. And I got some interesting scars to show for it.
I'm the last of the Sharons. I want to see this a clean city before I die. That isn't too much for an old woman to hope for, is it?
Oh, don't get up, Mrs. Sharon. That's probably the Chronicle trying to get me. Hello? What's that, Ruth? Oh, for the love of heaven, calm down. What's happened? Johnny! Why, those dirty... I'll be over at the hospital right away. I'll never let anything like this ever happen to you again, Johnny. This was all my fault.
I'm okay, Dad. You heard what the doctor said.
Easy, Mrs. Morgan, easy.
What about Mr. Valentine? Gosh, they pushed him off a train, and that didn't scare him.
You're just a little boy, Johnny. You shouldn't be mixed up in this.
Well, I almost ducked when that old truck tried to run me over. I guess we'll show those gangsters, huh? Huh, Dad? Just like in the movie.
Oh, Johnny, stop talking like that. This is not a movie. Oh, and I think I'm close.
Now, Ruth, let's go out in the hall. Anything you want, Johnny, you just tell the nurse.
Sure thing, Dad.
So long, kid.
Sam,
No, I know all the things you're going to say, Ruth, but they're not necessary.
Well, look, maybe you folks would like to be along.
No, Valentine. This concerns you, too. Let me have a full bill of your fee, and, well, we'll call it quits. I know when I'm licked.
Sam, that isn't what I was going to say.
What?
You fought too hard and long for what was right. If those men could do something like this, they're capable of anything. This is our home, our town. It's up to us, and others like us, to clean it up.
Oh, but Johnny...
Because of Johnny that I finally understood.
Valentine.
Save it, Morgan. I understand, too. This is open warfare now. And for one, I'm glad. No matter where it leads to.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, I'd like to tell you about a young man who knows where he's going. He's Warner Holfeld, a 21-year-old Navy veteran. Warner's working nights now, so that during the day he can study engineering at Los Angeles City College. Young Warner, who drives his car 40 and 50 miles a day, also knows that RPM motor oil gives cars protection you trust. Here's what he says about this premium motor oil. Quote, "When I recently had my oil changed, one look convinced me that RPM cleans as it lubricates. I actually saw the dirt drain out with the oil." Unquote. Yes, folks, RPM does clean your engine while it lubricates. It has special compounds that gently loosen carbon particles, gum, and lacquer formations, and prevent these troublemakers from harming those finely polished engine parts. RPM actually encircles dirt and carbon particles, holds them in suspension until the next oil drain and refill. Another thing, RPM sticks to engine hot spots left bare and exposed to wear by ordinary motor oil. Get protection you trust tomorrow. Get RPM motor oil at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. You've come up against some pretty formidable assignments, but playing the leading role in a drama called One Against a City under the thumb of three cynical, ruthless men, is a bit of casting you could have done without. Still, when a nameless hoodlum shoves you off a train and a truck nearly runs down a youngster to warn you off, you just put your head down and wade in. That is, if you have the same stubborn streak as George Valentine.
You started something, Mrs. Sharon, so you may as well sit back and watch the fireworks.
You don't think I want to back out? All I expect is a fighting chance against those leeches.
I've found out there's always a fighting chance, Mrs. Sharon.
By heaven, there has to be. Especially when there are people like the Morgans and like you on our side. The Morgans aren't letting anything scare them off, and Ernie Krantz only made you boiling mad when he nudged you off the train. Tell me something, young man.
What's that?
Have you decided on your first step?
I'm working on a surprise for Wally Wallpaper.
Good. Because I've got faith in my plan. Play them off against each other, that's it. I may be so old-fashioned to douse myself with lilac water every day, but I'm up to date enough to know how these modern James boys think and act.
If you were 10 years younger, Mrs. Sharon, I'd put a musket in your hand.
And if I were 10 years younger, I'd take it. Now, get along, young man. You're wasting time.
Not wasting time, Mrs. Sharon. Just biding time.
Never mind thanking me for the job, Miss Brooks. You can start pushing cigars and cigarettes here at the Barrel House tonight.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Wallpaper. I think you're the sweetest man.
I think you got class, baby. Yeah, and good taste. I could tell that the minute you went off your nut about this tie I got on. Ain't it a beaut?
I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Hey, look at. When I pull on it like this, see? The girl does the hula and the palm trees start waving. What do you think?
Suddenly I'm on the beach at Waikiki.
Where? Oh.
And what I like about it is it's so conservative.
That's right, baby. I'm not one of them loud guys. You'll find that out when you get to know me better. Which reminds me.
Yes, Wally?
When you're through tonight, how about me showing you some of my other ties? I got hundreds of them.
To think you're taking all this interest in me, Wally. And you're such an important man.
You're not wrong, baby. If you knew all the joints in this town that pay off to me, you wouldn't believe it. All right, let's talk about you. What did you say your first name was?
Claire.
I'll have your picture painted on a tie with your name right under it. How do you like that, huh?
Oh, that'd be wonderful. But just one thing.
Sure, name it.
Could you arrange to have me light up in the dark, too?
Hey, look, lady, I'm making a long-distance call to my mother. Find yourself another phone booth somewhere. Good work, Brooksy.
You've been in there an hour. You don't have a lease on this phone booth, you know, mister. Now that I've got the job, what do I do, George?
Come on, operator. Come on, will you? Yeah, I don't think we're being watched, but be careful. You'll find a little package on the shelf of the phone when I leave.
Where does your mother live? In Timbuktu?
But, operator, I did put in 2 quarters and a dime. Just smash this package on the floor at the Barrel House sometime during the evening.
Then what happens?
Oh, you'll find out. All right, operator, forget it. Okay, miss, it's all yours. Now, when the joint begins to jump tonight, Angel, just make sure Wally thinks one of Leonard Tucker's men did it. Well, I hope you're satisfied, lady. You came between me and my mother.
Now I forgot what number I was going to call. Oh.
Yeah, what voice got through that stink bomb? I'll kill him.
Wally, I saw who did it.
Huh?
I pointed him out to a waiter, and he said he was one of Leonard Tucker's men.
Oh, that's the way it is, huh? Tucker's been wanting to move in on me for a long time. Okay, I'm just the boy to play rough.
Are you crazy, mister? What are you going to do?
See if you can guess.
Those slot machines cost money. Wait till Big Ed Corrigan hears about this.
Just tell him that Wally Wallpaper has decided to branch out. And that includes gambling in this town.
Now, please, Mr. O'Reilly, I'm paying protection to Mr. Tucker.
Forget it. From now on, you're paying off to Big Head Corrigan.
No, but Mr. Tucker, he will...
Maybe this
me.
break through your front window will make up your mind.
The 5 days it shook Sharondale. Valentine, you really blew the lid off.
Well, I hope the reform mayor-to-be has his speech ready for the citizens' rally tonight.
All I can think of now is those three vultures tearing each other apart.
Hey, I like that headline you got in the Chronicle today, Morgan.
Assemblyman proposes state investigation of conditions in Sharondale. 10 years I've waited for this, Valentine. 10 long, long years.
You know, I'm glad for you. Well, we better keep our fingers crossed, Sam. See you later at your place.
Where do you think you're going, Jack?
Johnny One Note. I've been waiting to catch up with you.
Don't be so happy. This rod in my pocket ain't been used for a long time. I might decide to see if it still works.
Where to, Ernie?
Huh? Don't get so familiar. Get going for that car over there.
Valentine, if you don't stop fooling with that blindfold, Ernie's going to break a couple of your fingers.
Why don't you boys stop playing cops and robbers? You got my future all planned. What difference does it make if I know where you brought me?
I told you, Corrigan, this guy talks too much.
Oh, so we have Big Ed among us.
You've been pretty busy these last few days.
Yeah, like a jet-propelled termite.
Well, it's all over now. We got to decide what to do with you. Any ideas, Wally?
Well, I'm all for Ernie taking him off our backs. Let him earn his dough.
Yeah, one thing. Make it look like an accident.
Okay, Tucker, if you want to cramp my style. I can make it so they find him laying out in a state road. He was jaywalking.
Jaywalking? Remind me to give you a tie, Ernie.
So the three masterminds finally learned how to add two and two.
Yeah. We think slow. Maybe we got quick tempers. But usually we see our own mistakes.
All right, Ernie, take him out.
Time to shuffle along, Jack.
Wait a minute. For alleged big shots, you guys are certainly 3 14-carat suckers. Getting rid of me won't get you off the hook. You want to worry about the person who hired me, a very determined character.
You mean Sam Morgan?
You know Morgan is in hock up to his neck just trying to keep his newspaper going. Now, I'm talking about somebody who can buy and sell the three of you guys.
Can't you see he's just stalling?
Nah, let him talk.
Who are you referring to, Valentine?
The person in this room who insisted that you put this thing over my eyes so I wouldn't see. You don't need eyes to smell lilac water.
Wally, take the blindfold off him.
Hello, Mrs. Sharon.
I see I've underrated you, young man.
What is this? You made a very stupid mistake, Mrs. Sharon, when you mentioned Ernie's name the other day. I only knew him as another gunsel. How did you know his name? Unless you knew everything else that was going on, too.
A very unhealthy pastime, Alyssa. Double-crossing your partners.
Do you mind telling us why? Not that it's going to do you any good.
Now, well, I'll tell you why. She arranged for you gentlemen to help her take over the town. But you pushed her in the background. And that's one thing a Sharon can't stand, especially in her own bailiwick.
I don't see why you three mongrels should be so surprised. With you out of the way, I could find myself the kind of associates who'd realize that I own this town, even though I may need hired help to run it.
Listen to her, will you? It's a wonder she don't pack around.
Oh, shut up, Ernie.
One more thing you underrated, Mrs. Sharon. That corny item, public indignation. The plan worked too well. You saw that Sharondale might go back to the people. Then you decided to backtrack, so things would at least stay as they are.
So, that's why you rounded us up, Alyssa. Showed us we had the wrong idea about each other. Valentine out of the way, we never would have found out what you did.
Clever of me, wasn't it?
Too clever.
Looks like I got 2 jobs to do.
No, we can't afford for you to have all that fun, Ernie. If both of them get knocked off, too many things will tie up. There'll be too many questions.
Well, what are we going to do? She ain't safe to have around.
No. Alyssa will have to go.
Why, you don't dare.
Unfortunate accident right in your own home. You, Valentine, you're leaving town.
Am I?
You're too smart to hang around. You know there's nothing you can do. Won't be a piece of evidence against us. Take him on a train, Ernie, with you.
There ain't gonna be no mistake, Corrigan, this time.
Go on, do like you says.
Come on, Jack.
Good luck, young man. We may be seeing each other sometime. It was exciting while it lasted, wasn't it?
Yeah, a barrel of fun. Especially for all the innocent bystanders.
Outside, Jack, outside.
Hey, now look, Ernie, you're seeing me off. And I'm glad to get out of this town, see? So take that small howitzer out of my back, will you?
You don't know how lucky you are.
I'm just getting lucky, Buster, because you're getting careless. You are! You had a lot more than that coming to you, Ernie. But that's where you're lucky. I don't have the time.
But I don't know whom we can get, Valentine. You know how long it takes for the police to do anything when it involves Corrigan or any of those fellows?
No matter what she's done, we've got to try to help her.
I know. I'll get a couple of state troopers.
And anybody else we can trust. Tell them to meet us at the Sharon place. They didn't waste any time getting here.
George, this is horrible.
Yeah. And they kept their word about making it look like an accident. Old ladies have been known to fall downstairs and break their necks.
Oh, it's going to be hard for Sharondale to believe the truth about its first lady.
Sam, you're not going to print the truth. And nobody's ever going to know it.
But George...
It's going to be the first real service she's ever done for the town she was supposed to love.
But Valentine, people have the right to know that this Mrs. Sharon was really responsible for Tucker and all the others. She was feeding on every racket in the town.
But wouldn't it be smarter to let them think she was pure as driven snow?
I don't get it, George.
What better way of being swept into office, Sam, than making the good citizens think that a sainted member of the Fonding family was brutally murdered by gangsters they allowed to thrive all these years?
Oh, may never be able to prove that.
That's going to be your first job in office, Mayor Morgan. Well, goodbye, Johnny. Take care of yourself.
I wanted to ask you something, Mr. Valentine. If Dad gets to be mayor, can you make me deputy sheriff or something so I could carry a gun?
You better not let your mother hear you say that. You ought to be thinking of your schoolwork and keeping out of trouble.
You sweet on her, Mr. Valentine.
I guess you could call it that.
Can't be much fun, having a girl who's always trying to keep you out of trouble.
Now, look here, Johnny.
Oh, as a matter of fact, kid, I have all I can do to keep her from getting into trouble before I do.
Honest? Gee, you better hurry up and marry her before somebody else gets her.
Love that boy.
If your car acts as if every hill were too much for it, and if it's without pickup pep in traffic, who knows? Maybe it's just the gasoline you've been using. So tonight I'd like to remind you, Chevron Supreme gasoline is specially blended to give your car command performance in every road condition. It's a high-octane fuel that commands fast starts, smooth acceleration, and all the extra power to make it great on hills. So for happier motoring in traffic and on the open road, on short trips and the longer ones, rely on this premium quality gasoline. And remember, throughout the West, Chevron Supreme's climate-tailored to each different altitude and temperature zone. That means command performance from your car wherever you go, regardless of terrain or weather. Try a tank full of Chevron Supreme tomorrow. Get it at standard stations and at independent Chevron gas stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear George saying...
All right, now, Mrs. Pebbleman, Brooksy, jump in the car and hurry. I don't want to use this gun if I can help it.
Mr. Valentine, they were waiting here for you. All those men, they were going to kill you.
Yeah, well, they still have the same idea. Come on, get in the back, Mrs. Pebbleman. Let it roll, Brooksy. And don't stop till we get to your place. Get there before that gunsel does. Or we'll be missing one perfectly good client.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Hal K. Dawson as Morgan, Virginia Gregg as Mrs. Morgan, Jerry Farber as Johnny, Miriam Wolfe as Mrs. Sharon, Larry Dobkin as Wally, Ed Begley as Corrigan, and Bob Dryden as Ernie. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter, your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Apologies that the audio on this particular episode wasn't good. There were some skips at the beginning, but otherwise I thought it was worthwhile. This is one of those episodes that combines a more mystery drama feel than necessarily the mystery detective. I think that there's a little bit of a difference from that, and you see that. Well, we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes. This one is known as a couple different titles. I've seen this listed as Murder Under the Big Top with an air date set in 1944. But this is actually a 1946 edition. So let's go ahead and we will take a listen to The Indiscretion of Mr. Edwards.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. You know, the lives of Holmes and Watson were not always filled with action. They spent many a quiet evening at home in Baker Street, discussing the problems of the world over a glass of port. You know, it seems that no wine is more expressive of friendship and hospitality than port. And I'm sure there's no port wine more enjoyable than Petri California port. Try a good glass of Petri port after dinner some evening, or any time you get together with your friends. You'll love the rich, ruby red color of that Petri port. You'll love its smoothness and full body, its remarkable and wonderful flavor. A flavor that comes straight from the heart of luscious, hand-picked grapes. Serve that Petri port alone, or serve it together with cake, or cookies, or with fruit. Yes, and serve it proudly. You can, because the name Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wines. And now I'm sure our old friend Dr. Watson's expecting us. Let's tap on his study door.
Come in.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Bartell. Come over here by the fire. I was just having a cup of coffee. Would you care to join me?
Thanks, that'd be nice.
It'll prevent you falling asleep during my story tonight.
There's no chance of that, Doctor. From the hint you gave us last week, it sounded like quite a story. It began in a circus in Paris, you told us?
Yes, my boy, the circus. A colorful world of sawdust and spangles. A world, Mr. Bartell, that I may tell you confidentially, always held an irresistible fascination for me when I was a youngster.
Me too, Doctor.
In fact, when I was 8 years old, I fell desperately in love with a lady bareback rider. A stunning creature who wore pink silk tights with gold sequins on them. Unfortunately, my mother caught me writing her proposal of marriage, and I'm afraid that, that's another story, and one that you probably wouldn't find very interesting.
I'm sure I would, Doctor, but I think it'd be safer to stick to your Sherlock Holmes story.
Yes, you're probably right, my boy. Well, it was a winter in the 1890s, and Holmes and I were in Paris. On our second day there, Holmes suggested we attend that night's performance of the Cirque Royale. Needless to remark, I was delighted, Mr. Bartell. And shortly after 9 o'clock that night, I found myself seated beside Holmes in a box near the ringside. It was an incredibly vivid scene, even for that city of color and light. The gay costumes of the women and the gaudy trappings of the ringmasters and clowns looked like a giant kaleidoscope under the blazing glare of the arc lamps. As we sat there, a brass band nearby blared forth some popular music of the day, and yet he didn't appear to be enjoying himself. And so I leaned across and touched his arm.
What is it, Watson?
Well, you're very quiet, Holmes. Aren't you having a good time?
A good time, oh, I suppose, old chap. I was just wondering where Mr. Edwards is.
Mr. Edwards? Who's he?
An extremely distinguished client who was to meet us in this box at 9 o'clock.
Client, so this little excursion was on business. After all, yes, I might have known it.
Nobody, old fellow. In your case, I think you'll be able to combine quite a little pleasure with the business.
Can't you be a little more explicit, Holmes?
Here comes the ringmaster.
C'est l'honneur de vous présenter ce soir la grande vedette du cirque, Mademoiselle Gisèle Girondet, équestrienne incomparable.
Gisèle Girondet, yes, I've heard of her. She's a bareback rider, isn't she, Holmes?
In France, old fellow. She also has quite a reputation as a femme fatale. 3 duels have been fought over her. A young English officer in the Grenadier Guards committed suicide last year because of her. And a famous French banker is at present languishing in prison because her extravagances drove him to appropriate funds that did not belong to him. Yes, Watson, she's an extremely colorful personality.
You know, Holmes, the funny thing, when I was 8 years old, I fell violently in love with a lady bareback rider. She wore pink silk tights with golden sequins on them, but unfortunately...
Here she is, old fellow. Here she is.
Holmes, she's exquisite. Look at the way she's jumping from the back of one horse to the other. Sheer poetry of motion.
The lady appeals to you, Watson.
By George, yes, indeed she does. In fact, Holmes, I don't mind telling you that if I weren't a married man and a poor
you'd like
man...
to court the lady, eh?
Yes, I should
Excellent,
indeed.
old fellow, excellent. That's the very reason for our attendance at the
Well, what in heaven's name are you talking about, Holmes?
Ah, there you are. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Holmes, my dear fellow, how are you? I haven't seen you since that little affair at Windsor Castle, when Mother...
Excuse me, sir. I am Mr. Mycroft, and this is my friend, Sir William Nigel.
William Nigel?
Oh, of course. And I am Mr. Edwards. We must respect each other's incognito, eh? How do you do, Sir William?
Well, I'm extremely honored to meet you, Your Royal... Mr. Edwards.
How'd you like Giselle? Isn't she a stunning creature?
Yes, indeed she is, sir.
The four of us to have supper together after the performance tonight, I understand, Mr. Edwards.
Well, unfortunately, I can't be there, Mycroft. There's some stupid affair at the embassy which I have to attend. We must postpone the dinner until tomorrow.
Oh, very well, sir.
Come over to my hotel a little early and we can discuss the whole business. Personally, I think a lot of fuss is being made about nothing. Now, if you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I must go back and see Giselle for a moment and tell her that I can't keep our appointment for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow, Mycroft. Good night, Sir William.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Et maintenant, pour votre plaisir, les frères Salini, les jongleurs internationaux.
Holmes, what's all this mystery? That wasn't Mr. Edwards. It was the Prince of...
Watson, please. Discretion, old fellow. Mr. Edwards, as you know, is extremely democratic. Too much so, possibly. when one considers his position and responsibilities. He's become quite seriously involved with Mademoiselle Giselle, the lady bareback rider who has just left the ring.
Oh, so that's it.
The Foreign Office, quite naturally, I suppose, is deeply concerned over the matter, and I've been entrusted with the delicate mission of protecting Mr. Edwards.
Oh, does Giselle Gironde know that his true identity, do you suppose?
That's the first thing that we have to find out. It's possible that she is simply captivated by having a rich Englishman at her feet. If, on the other hand, she knows who Mr. Edwards is, then we may be in for a great deal of trouble.
Yes, but how are you going to find that out?
By tempting her with a richer Englishman. And one with a title. That, my dear fellow, is why you are Sir William Nigel.
You mean that...
your job, old fellow, is to do your utmost to steal Giselle Gironde from Mr. Edwards.
But, I don't even know the girl.
We shall remedy that defect in a few minutes. As soon as the performance is over, my dear chap, I shall take you to her dressing room and arrange an introduction.
I must say, Holmes, the backstage life at a circus is even more colorful than in the ring.
What makes you say that, old fellow?
Well, I just saw Pinhead having tea with a bearded lady while a sword swallower was standing behind him practicing his act.
Oh, hello. See that man standing talking to the girl in tights?
Yeah, attractive, isn't he?
The gentleman is Inspector Vernet of the French police, an old friend and a distant relative of mine. Vernet, how are you?
Ah, Holmes, mon cher ami, comment ça va?
No, Vernet, please. On this occasion, my name is Mycroft, if you don't mind, and this is my friend, Sir William Nigel.
How do you do, Inspector?
Enchanté, Sir William. Permit me to introduce Mademoiselle Yvette Marat.
How you do?
How do you do, Mademoiselle?
What brings you behind the scenes at the circus, may I ask, mon cher Mycroft?
My friend Sir William is most anxious to make the acquaintance of Mademoiselle Gironde.
But of course, every man wishes to meet Giselle Gironde. Why not ask Vernet? He will present you to her. Ha! In no way.
Oh, now, Yvette, chérie, do not begin that all over again.
You're in love with her. You've always been in love with her. I wish you were dead. Sometimes I think I could kill her myself.
Upon my soul, Inspector, she's a fine little thing, isn't she?
Ah, ça c'est vrai, ça, Sir William. Many times I've told her that Giselle Gironde would never waste her time with a simple police inspector. She prefers a wealthy foreigner. But Yvette ne comprend pas. She does not understand and she does not believe.
Mademoiselle Marat was dressed in tights, Vernet. And what does she do in the circus?
She walks the tightrope.
Oh,
She's
yes.
queen of the high wire. A charming and a talented girl, but a most jealous one.
Vernet, my distinguished friend Sir William Nigel is most anxious to meet Giselle Gironde. Will you introduce him? I should prefer not to appear on the matter at this stage.
Oh, mais certainement. I will take you to her dressing room. Please come with me, Sir William.
Right. I'll see you later, Holmes.
I'll be waiting for you, old chap. Good luck.
You're a lucky man, Sir William. Giselle has quite a penchant for the Englishmen. And when they are rich and have a title, I am sure she finds them irresistible.
You think so?
Oh, but of course. Quel dommage that I'm only a poor policeman. Here we are.
Entrez?
Giselle, monsieur, permit me to present to you Sir William Nigel. He's a great admirer of yours.
Yes, indeed, madam.
Sir William Nigel. Come and sit here beside me, Sir William.
I shall leave you. Au revoir.
Sit closer. There. That is much more cozy, no?
Oh, it's nice of you to see me, Mademoiselle Gironde.
Oh, don't be so formal, my Englishman. You may call me Giselle, and I shall call you... Let me see, I shall call you Sir William... Willie! I shall call you Willie. You do not mind?
Mine, I'm so delightful. Quite delightful, my dear. I was hoping perhaps that you care to have a little supper with me tonight, Giselle. So what about some oysters, a cold pheasant, and a bottle or two of Pomeranian Greeno 72? And you get to taste rather well, don't you think?
Oh, Willie, I can see you are a perfect
Oh, I don't know about that.
One moment, I get my cloak.
Well, you know, Giselle, it's a funny thing.
What is the funny thing, Willie?
When I was 8 years old, I fell violently in love with a lady bareback rider at a circus. History seems to be repeating itself.
Here.
Pierre. Do you no longer knock when you come to my door?
Who is this man?
My name is Nigel, Sir William Nigel, my good man, and who may you be?
I am Alfio Alfieri.
I am Alfio Alfieri. And what is he? A trainer of wild animals. An imbecile. Rotten!
You must not speak to Alfio in that way. You belong to me. Send this stupid Englishman away.
Confounded impudence.
Grossier. belong to you. Giselle belonged to no one.
Do I have to take my whip to
Put
you?
down that whip. Put it down, you scoundrel.
That's the time it will be your face, Carl.
You infernal blackguard. Raising your hand against a woman. Shocking.
Oh, Monsieur Willie has knocked him down.
He certainly deserved it.
Oui. And you in turn deserve something, Willie.
Oh, what was that?
Come close, Willie, and I give it to you. A little kiss.
Oh, kiss? Thanks awfully.
Willie, you're so strong, so resolute, so brave.
Oh, it was nothing, my dear Giselle. Nothing at all. Here, more champagne, Gus. More champagne.
Oh, Willie.
Giselle,
Oui, Monsieur Edwards?
have a box for the opera tomorrow night. I was hoping that
Oh,
perhaps...
I'm sorry, Monsieur, but my time is occupied. I am showing the delightsome moment to Monsieur Willie.
Mademoiselle est mieux le collier de perles à 5 rangs ou celui à 3 rangs?
He says, which do I prefer, the 5-string color pearls or the 3-string color pearls? What does my Willie think?
So that you can't hang too many pearls on a pretty neck like yours. I'll take the 5-string collar, my good fellow.
You're doing splendidly, Watson, splendidly.
Yes, but Holmes, I felt such a blasted fool handing that jeweler fellow a check signed by Sir William Nigel. Are you quite sure that it'll be honored?
Don't worry, old fellow. Remember who our client is. Money is the least important concern in this matter. On with the masquerade, old fellow. On with the masquerade.
More champagne, garçon.
Willie, you are such a headstrong boy.
More champagne. Oh, you dear little thing.
Good evening, Vernet. Has Mademoiselle Girondet come in for the evening performance yet?
Yes, Monsieur Holmes. I escorted her to her dressing room half an hour ago. Monsieur Edwards is in there with her now. At last, it seems, she has use for a poor policeman. Last night she found a threatening letter on her makeup table. Since then, she has been most grateful for my company.
A threatening letter, eh? Any idea who might have sent it?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm afraid I have, Monsieur Holmes. I told her to pay no attention. By the perfume of the notepaper, I recognize the sender. A jealous tightrope walker called Yvette Marat.
Oh.
Poor Yvette. She would make a very inferior criminal, I'm afraid. Still, Giselle asked me to stay outside her dressing room till the performance starts. You wish to see her?
Yes. Oh, good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Evening, Mycroft. Evening, Inspector Vernet. Comment ça va, Monsieur Edwards?
Look here, Mycroft. I think this little game's gone far enough. Giselle has just refused another invitation of mine. Now, I know who Sir William Nigel is, and I swear I'll tell her.
Don't you think, sir, that the lady is hardly worth bothering about? Surely this whole incident with Sir William proves that she's a scheming little adventuress. A fictitious title and an apparently bottomless purse have shown her up in her true colors.
I could have told you the same thing without such an experiment, my friend.
Well, I suppose you're right, Mycroft. I've been a fool. An idiot who lets a pretty ankle turn his head. A conceited dope.
Let us just say, monsieur, that you have been a man.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just going back to see Giselle for a moment, I brought us these flowers for her. I'll be back in a jiffy.
Just a minute, Watson. I hate to dampen your ardor, old chap, but the masquerade is ended.
Ended? What do you mean it's
It is no longer necessary for you to impersonate Sir William Nigel or to pay court to Giselle.
Really? 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 Well, that's a great relief, sir. Great relief. I've hated the whole business.
Oh, yes, I'm sure you have. We appreciate the sacrifices that you've made, don't we, Sir Edward?
Yes, indeed.
Well, I must go back and see her once more, though. We had a rendezvous for tonight, and I must cancel it. A gentlemanly thing to do, you know. I won't be a minute.
Never have I seen a man more downcast. Obviously, with him, my dear Holmes, business was a pleasure. Alfieri, where are you going?
That Englishman. I just saw him go into Giselle's room.
To whom are you referring?
That man that called himself Sir William Nigel. 2 days ago, he struck me. I have to settle with him. No man may strike Alfieri.
Do not cause any more trouble, Alfieri. From what I've been told, you thoroughly deserved what happened to you.
Here he come now. You, English, you. Alfieri challenge you to a duel.
Holmes! Holmes!
What, old chap? What is it? You're as white as a ghost.
It's Giselle.
What's wrong with her?
She's dead. She's lying there in her dressing room. Strangled.
Strangled? And only half an hour ago I spoke with her myself. Since then I've been standing in this corridor, guarding her door at her own request. Only 2 men have entered Giselle's dressing room since then. You, Monsieur Edwards, and you, Sir William Nigel.
What are you suggesting, Vernet?
I am suggesting nothing. I am stating that these 2 gentlemen are under arrest for suspicion of murder.
Dr. Watson's unusual story will continue in just a few seconds. Time I'd like to take to remind you that one wine that seems to be the outstanding favorite among the ladies is Petri California Muscatel. That's probably because, like a beautiful woman, Petri Muscatel is subtle and intriguing. Petri Muscatel is the color of burnished gold. And its flavor, well, it's the flavor of big, plump Muscat grapes, picked by hand, carefully and tenderly, and they're just full of wonderful, delicious juice. If you want to show that you really know the wine that women prefer, serve Petri Muscatel. Serve it after dinner or later in the evening. It's wonderful. And why shouldn't it be? It's a Petri wine. Well, Dr. Watson, so you and the mysterious Mr. Edwards got yourselves arrested on suspicion of murder, huh?
Yes, Mr. Bartell. Holmes did everything in his power to persuade Inspector Vernet to release us, but it was useless. And so, while Mr. Edwards and myself were languishing in detention cells at the local Sûreté, Holmes and the French inspector were examining the dressing room of the dead woman.
I'm sure, Inspector Vernet, that being as keen a detective as you are, you must suspect the true identity of Mr. Edwards.
Of course, Monsieur Holmes. But that is the danger of incognitos. If he chooses to assume the identity of plain Monsieur Edwards, then he must run the risks of plain Monsieur
And you're convinced that either he or my friend strangled Mademoiselle Girondet?
It is obvious.
Then I'll have to prove to you that they didn't. Let me examine the body again. No. If she had been strangled by either of my friends, why would her body be lying here under the window? It's as far away from the door by which they left this room as possible.
That proves nothing.
No, but it's odd.
Giselle was a strong girl. There might easily have been a struggle. Perhaps she tried to get away through the window.
And yet there are no marks of violence on her throat. Just this piece of very fine cord that did its deadly work so keenly. Cut with a knife.
Please do not remove the cord, Monsieur Holmes. The body has not yet been photographed.
Dear me, Vernet, you're making it very hard for me, aren't you? You notice, of course, that the window is open.
Yes, but we have examined the snow outside. There were no footprints within 3 yards of the window. The murderer must have entered by the door that I was watching.
Yes, it would be hard, even for a professional acrobat to jump in. An acrobat? Vernet, your young friend, Mademoiselle Yvette Marat, is a tightrope walker.
Yvette, but...
Yes, she certainly had a motive. She'd even sent a threatening letter. I heard her express hatred and jealousy for this dead woman. It's conceivable that she could enter a room by a window without leaving footprints in the snow. Where was she at the time of the murder?
I do not know. I was waiting for her in the corridor.
Then I suggest that we investigate her alibi at once. And after that, Inspector, I must pay a visit to the Sûreté. I don't want my friends to think that I've deserted them. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Holmes.
I'm afraid it looks rather black. As I was telling you, Yvette Marat, the tightrope walker, was able to establish completely satisfactory alibi. Vernet still suspects you or Dr. Watson.
Well, that's ridiculous.
May I ask you a very straightforward question, sir?
Of course.
I can well understand that if you had gone into the dressing room and found the woman already murdered, you might easily be tempted to conceal the fact, to avoid a scandal involving your person. Will you swear to me, sir, on your true identity, that Giselle was alive when you left her?
She was, Holmes. I swear it.
Thank you, sir. That's all I wanted to know.
Holmes, I'm glad to see you. You know, I've been thinking. All this depends on Vernet's evidence. But supposing he was the murderer? He told us that Giselle had turned him down, you know.
I'd thought of that, but Mr. Edwards swears that Giselle was alive when he left the room. And yet that means that Mr. Edwards... Oh, no. It's unthinkable.
Holmes, you're not suggesting... Holmes, if I thought that were possible, I'd confess to the murder myself. My life wouldn't matter if it'd save a scandal like that. Great Scott, it'd shatter the empire.
Dear old Watson, you shall not sacrifice yourself. You're as valuable a British institution as the Lion himself. No, my dear fellow. It will never sacrifice you, not while my mind is still capable of... My mind? That's it. Thank you, Watson. You've given me the answer.
Holmes, what are you burbling about
Be patient,
now?
old fellow. In half an hour, you'll be out of this cell, and the real murderer will be in it.
Questions. Why must Alfieri answer so many questions?
Because he will not yet tell the truth. You murdered Giselle Girondet.
How many times I have to tell you I did not kill her? Why should I want to harm her?
Because you were jealous. Because she humiliated and tormented you.
But I was not in her dressing room. I've already proved that fact. Am I a magician that I can kill somebody without entering a room?
Alfieri, I know how you killed Giselle Girondet without its necessitating your entering this room.
And you're a smart man. Please to tell me.
I don't need to tell you. With the aid of Vernet, I'll show you. Open the window, Alfieri.
What game is this?
Very well, then. I'll open the window myself. Put your head out. Come on. So. Who do you see? Inspector Vernet, standing 3 yards away, where you stood, and he's got your long training whip.
No!
Don't move! Stand there. The inspector hasn't your skill with a whip, but he wants to try a little experiment.
No, leave him alone!
All right, Vernet. I'm holding him.
Well, Mr. Edwards, well, sir, this is a pleasant change from a prison cell, isn't it?
It certainly is. Holmes, I can't tell you how grateful I am. I still don't quite understand how you did it.
Watson, in rather a roundabout way, was responsible for giving me the clue.
Oh, how was that, Holmes?
Well, on more than one occasion, old chap, I've had cause to deplore your rather florid style of writing. Tonight, I was very thankful for it. When I began to speak of the capabilities of my mind, suddenly I remembered a phrase of yours in which you referred to its whip-like rapidity and accuracy. That, of course, made me think of Alfieri, the animal trainer.
Exactly how did he kill the poor girl?
Well, sir, he stood outside the window, far enough away to leave no incriminating footprints. Called to Giselle, probably persuaded her to lean out, then snapped the whip around her neck, pulling it tight and strangling her.
And then I suppose he cut the cord and let the body fall back into the room.
Precisely, old fellow. We found a whipstock among his tackle, a whipstock from which the lash had been cut. The stub of lash left matched the cord around the dead girl's throat.
Amazing business. And I don't mind telling you, fellas, I'm very thankful to be through with it.
Yes, so am I, sir. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this whole incident cures me of my love of circuses.
Oh, I didn't know you had a predilection in that direction, Watson.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, you don't mind my saying so. When he was 8 years old, he fell in love with a lady bareback rider. Didn't you, Watson?
Indeed. What happened?
Well, sir, I don't remember her name, but she wore pink silk tights with golden sequins on them. And I wrote her a rather hot-headed letter. Unfortunately, my mother...
Well, Doctor, that was one of the most unusual stories you've ever told. And I might say you played a very prominent part in that case yourself.
Oh, I suppose I did. At that, Mr. Bartell. Giselle was a beautiful girl. Beautiful.
Boy, I sure love that nickname she gave you. Wheelie.
Yes, I thought it was rather nice myself. Well, that is, I mean...
Don't get embarrassed over a nickname, Doctor. You should hear the nickname I had. When I went to school, all the girls called me Bottles.
Bottles? Oh, I see, from Bartell. Bartell?
Some nickname, like a prophecy.
What do you mean?
Well, they called me Bottles, and now that's what I like to talk about most. Bottles. Bottles of Petri wine.
Oh, I should have known.
And I'd like to talk about Petri wine because, as far as I'm concerned, it's the swellest wine that ever poured from a bottle. That's because the Petri family really knows how to make good wine. Well, they ought to. They've been making good wine ever since they started the Petri business way back in the 1800s. And since the Petri family has always personally owned and operated their business, they've been able to keep that fine art of winemaking right in the family. handing it on down from father to son, from father to son, from generation to generation. So it's no wonder, whenever you want a good wine, you want a Petri wine. Because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes story are you going to tell us about next
Well,
week?
now, next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you of a strange adventure that Holmes and I had in the swampy fenlands of Norfolk. It concerns a gypsy encampment, a child that vanished, and a horrible death in the murky depths of a fearsome quagmire.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of the Three Students. Music is by Dean Fossler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studio. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. For a solid hour of exciting mystery dramas, listen every Monday on most of these same stations at 8 o'clock to Michael Shayne, followed immediately by Sherlock Holmes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Some interesting things about the choice of names. Sir William Nigel, of course, the real name of Dr. Watson is portrayed by Nigel Bruce, and his actual nickname was Willie. And he started to tell that Lady Bareback Rider story so many times, I actually got curious about how it went, but I don't think we'll get the exact complete story on that. But another fascinating episode and a good problem for Holmes to solve. All right, well, we got a quick email and a comment, and then we will be done. Email from Lance. Love the show. I just wanted to drop you a line concerning the next series. I was listening to an episode of Holmes called The Baconian Cipher from May 27th, 1946 from my own collection, and I heard something I think you will find interesting. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so I won't go into details. Keep up the good work, Lance. Well, thanks so much, Lance, and I know that this is one series that a lot of people look forward to and collect it and heard in their collections. And I can't wait to find out what's in that episode. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This will sound familiar to listeners who've been with us for a few months, because this script is quite similar to the last Charles Russell episode we played. In fact, with some dialogue differences and some slight plot changes. It's practically the same story as Port-au-Prince. Haiti. This episode is called the Port-au-Prince Matter, so let's listen, and then we'll talk about it.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Dr. Colby calling back, Johnny.
Oh, yeah, Frank. How am I?
Oh, you've fallen behind. You'll need boosters for diphtheria and smallpox, typhoid, cholera... And if we can find room, why, we'll bring you up to date on your tetanus.
Oh. Well, where do I get them?
We'll have it all right here in the office, or I can stop by on my way home.
Well, that's not what I mean, Frank. It takes a long time to get to Haiti, and those plane seats aren't very comfortable at best.
Edmund O'Brien, in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, America Federated Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention, Harvard Huntington, General Manager. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my assignment in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Expense account item 1, $15 for a pair of tickets to Detective Story at the Hudson Theater, New York, which I never got a chance to use since I was seated in the library of your Hartford home promptly at curtain time.
Dollar, I want to thank you for coming out here. Sorry to break into your evening like this, but since I have, I'll get right to the point. Perhaps you've heard of the Gordon family here in Hartford.
Well, what I see of the society page is what I'm flipping back to the sports section, but I've noticed the name. Diamond-studded, aren't they?
Immensely wealthy. Pillars of society. And, surprisingly, quite a proper family. That is, all but one of the sons, Ralph. A heavy drinker, complete wastrel, ne'er-do-well.
Oh, a blot on the old escutcheon, eh?
Yes, continually getting into one scrape or another. Now he's done it again.
I take it that you're not worried about Ralph the man, but about Ralph the policyholder, huh?
Yeah. Well, to put it bluntly, yes. I don't think it's unethical for a company to protect its interests. In this case, the policy is in the amount of $150,000.
Quite a piece of paper.
Yes. And to be quite candid, I rue the day it was issued. But the point is this. Ralph Gordon, at last report, is dying aboard his yacht at Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Well, then you don't need me. You need the Mayo Clinic.
Dollar, I hesitate to even mention this in the presence of a sane man. But from everything we can learn, young Gordon is not dying from any known malady. He's dying as a result... Oh, it's pure nonsense. He's supposed to be dying as the result of voodoo curse. Now, anybody with any
All
sense...
right, wait a minute. Where'd you get your information?
From his older brother, Thomas. He's a doctor. He's down there in Haiti with Ralph. Now, I want you to go down and debunk this thing, Dollar. Find out what's wrong. Why, any sane man knows there's no such voodoo. You don't believe in it, do you?
No, not unless I see it working. Expense account item 2, $148.70, Hartford to Port-au-Prince via airplane. Expense account item 3, $32.50, tropical clothes. And item 4, $25 spent while I browsed the waterfront bars in Port-au-Prince, looking for somebody who knew where the Gordon yacht was moored. When I found him, he not only knew that, he knew everything.
It don't matter what you want to know about this blasted island. Ask me first. My name is Cap Regan, and I've been here since before repeal. Give up my citizenship, I did, with the help of a couple of prohibition agents. And I figure on sailing out my final days right here. What do you want with the Gordon craft?
I want to see the owner, Ralph Gordon. How do I get to it?
I reckon you pay me to row you out to her. My dinghy's down to the foot of the pier, just a short hail from where we're at.
Well, good. Come on, let's shove off.
Just wait till I down my ration here. That'll put me in ship shape. What'd you say you wanted with that schooner? You figuring on buying her?
Oh, thank you for the compliment. If I bought a boat today, it'd have to be a surplus life raft. I told you I want to talk to Gordon.
A friendly visit or the other kind?
Uh-huh. I'm beginning to see how you know so much about this island.
Well, never question, never learn. Remember that, Sonny. And this way, we veer off to starboard. Yes, sir. Never question, never learn.
Look, I'm an insurance investigator. A company sent me down here to look things over, including Gordon.
Something wrong?
I don't know yet. What do you know about it?
A jugful, Sonny, a jugful. Stood into the harbor about 2 months back. No sooner dropped his hook than his crew started taking the pierhead leap. Everybody jumped for the bosun, for reasons of his own.
What was the matter with Gordon?
He was off seas over all the time. And you navigate with sextant, a compass, and parallel ruler, Sonny, not with a double shot and a water chaser. Get the drift?
They were afraid to sail with him?
Oh, that's the line of it. If you'd ever piled into a reef, you feel the same. Oh, yeah, here we are. Now, there's my dinghy down at the bottom of the ladder. And there's Gordon's yacht out there, you see her? The tug is passing astern of her now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of boat.
Yep, she carries a suit of sail like a grain clipper. Oh, wait till you see her close up. She's dirty as a garbage scow. All right, give her a hail now, Sonny. We're close enough.
Hey! Anybody aboard? Hey, aboard the yacht. Anyone home?
Yes? What do you want?
If the ship was dirty, I didn't notice. It may have had good lines, too, but it couldn't have touched what stood still at the rail, wearing clam diggers, an off-the-shoulder T-shirt, and a Caribbean tan.
There's a trim old for you. That'll be his wife.
Can I come aboard?
Who are you? What do you want?
I'm Johnny Dollar from Hartford. I want to talk to Ralph.
Oh. Why, yes, then. I guess you'll have to come aboard.
Yeah. I'll swing the stern into the ladder. There you be. Well, steady now.
Okay, Cap. You wait for me, huh?
Well, how are things in Ralphie's old hometown?
Cool, but not as cool as this reception.
Don't let it throw you. What is this, a friendly drop-in business or just plain snooping? It's the last time Edwina, the wife they haven't heard about at home.
Congratulations. Now I know why you like the way your shoulders bear. The better to keep a chip on them.
If you're through being sharp, I'll let you hear what's left of my husband. Come on, through here. Hey, Ralph. You got a visitor from Hartford.
Get away from this cabin, you gold-digging little chiseler. You take your visitor with you.
Well, there you are, chum. He's got the door locked. It'll stay that way till he runs out of wine. You heard enough?
Yes, enough to know how you acquired your charming attitude.
Forget it. I walked into it with my eyes wide open. Let's get back out on deck. The light's better for throwing barbs at each other.
Sure. Sounds like fun.
Well, do I have to help you off the boat?
Not until you help me by answering some questions. I'm an insurance investigator. I was sent down here by the company that holds a policy on your husband's life.
What should I do? Faint?
The story they got was that Ralph was dying from some kind of a voodoo curse. They don't believe it, neither do I.
Why not? It might be true. Oh, some old guy, they call him Papa Luau, came out to the boat. He yelled some things at Ralph, and when Ralphie threw a bottle at him, he swore he'd put a curse on him. Hey, how did they hear about it back in Hartford?
Ralph's brother, Dr. Thomas Gordon, told them. You know him?
Yeah, we hate each other. I wonder why he'd tell them.
Well, maybe because he thought somebody who'd be better off with Ralph dead was using Papa Luau's curse as a cover-up. How would you stand as his widow?
Get off this boat. Get off.
What's the trouble, Eddie?
Oh, Em. Yeah, come here, will you?
Who's the boarding party?
Just get him off, Em.
Sure, honey. Well, mate, do you walk in or dive?
Save your strength for the last scene, Goliath. I was just leaving. Expense account item 5, $3 paid to Cap Regan as water taxi fare. Item 6, 80 cents, land taxi fare to Hotel Francois. And up at the Hills hangout for not only the best in tourists, but also Brother Thomas Gordon, M.D.
Please make yourself comfortable. Could I offer you something?
Nothing but some brotherly advice.
Certainly. I feel like a stupid fool for not being able to handle this thing myself. So now that you're here, call on me for anything. First, have you seen Ralph?
I tried to, but he locked himself in his cabin. Tell me, as a medical man, how do you digest this voodoo curse story?
Why, it's ridiculous. Good heavens, this is the 20th century. I do think that science doesn't know everything it would like to know. Voodoo, black magic. There are stories, supposedly true, but any victim would have to have a highly susceptible mind. And I know my brother, Mr. Dollar. His mind is susceptible only to his own whims and fancies.
And what's the matter with him?
That's it, I don't know. He's drawn within himself and seems to be searching almost insanely for escape through alcohol.
Hasn't anybody thought of putting him on the wagon? It's a horrible idea, but it works.
I don't think this is the time for it. He's suffering mentally and needs release.
And that leaves us only one thing to think about, and no matter how thin you cut it, it's still voodoo.
I'm a man of science, Mr. Dollar. I'd make hypocrisy out of all my knowledge and training if I attacked the problem from that direction. But, please let me know what you find.
Expense account item 7, $4, rental of horse and cart, in which my walking tourist guide, Cap Regan, and I jolted out of town in search of Papa Luau. Something made me feel like I was riding my last mile in a tumbril en route to the guillotine. The moonlight was fighting a losing battle against an army of storm clouds that was sweeping in. And then to make it worse, I heard a drum.
Hear that, Sonny?
Yeah, sort of a tired Gene Krupa.
Means we're getting close to Papa's quarters.
Is he the only one around here?
Yep, none of the good Ogans performs in his territory. He's too mean.
Oh, great.
And that ain't no galley news, it's the truth. I tell you, there's lots of black magic, so-called. It's nothing but tourist bait. But Papa, he's a genuine article. Let me tell you about one fella he loaded a curse onto. He was a native, and before he got through with him...
Cap, please. You keep your mind on your driving, and I'll keep mine on pleasant memories.
Well, I ain't got no more driving to think about.
What's the matter?
That's the path over there by that gnarled old tree. From here on, you plot your own course. This is close enough for me.
Me too. Say, wait a minute. How do I know I can't put a curse on him, huh? I never tried.
Smooth sailing, Sonny.
The path led along the edge of a field of sugarcane, and on the other side of me was a solid wall of jungle. First, I smelled some feathers burning. Then I heard the chant. There was a door in the wall of jungle that led to a small clearing, and before the moon was smothered by another cloud, I saw a shack. Smoke curled out through an open door, and I could see the glow of a fire on the floor inside. Hey, Papa! I want to talk to you.
Who is come to the house of Papua?
Well, my name wouldn't mean anything to you, but what I have to say will. Can I come in?
Entree. What are these words of so great importance as you wish to interrupt, Papua?
All I know about voodoo is that I don't believe it.
Legba.
I've come to you because I haven't gotten the answers from anybody else. I want to know what's behind this so-called curse you put on Ralph Gordon.
You not believe. You like me make you believe. Ralph Gordon, he died. Tonight. In the wind and rain. And for you, I have magic now. See my fire? You will believe the smoke. Now, believe.
I couldn't see what he'd thrown onto the fire. He'd reached behind him for it. But when the smoke from it whirled around me, it seemed to grab my throat and squeeze. I stumbled back through the door. I hadn't believed in voodoo when I'd come in. But going out, I wasn't so sure.
We will return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. CBS invites you to hear one of the greatest ad-libbers in show business, Groucho Marx, this Wednesday night on most of these same CBS stations. Groucho's show, You Bet Your Life, finds the master throwing quips and questions at oddly assorted pairs of contestants. And it's one of the funniest, fastest, merriest shows on the air. Be listening when Groucho Marx comes along this Wednesday on CBS. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
My throat burned. I staggered around in the heavy jungle air, and when I could breathe again, I gulped in enough to lift the Graf Zeppelin. When I got back into the shack, he was gone. He hadn't left much of what he'd smoked me out with, but he'd left enough. A few shreds of photographic film on the dirt floor. And film made of cellulose and nitrates not only takes pictures, it puts out nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide when it's burned. A combination that would live up to the demands of any gas chamber. We headed back to the yacht, and this time I boarded without a hail.
I'm telling you, Em, we can't go on with this.
Well, this time, you having a change of heart.
Well, that's what happened.
I'm not so sure that makes any difference.
Maybe you're in too deep to back out. How would you like it if I spilled the whole thing?
Oh, what difference does it make? It'd be better than landing in a Haitian prison with your motives showing.
Think it over, Angel. I'll be in my sack when you make up your mind.
And how wrong you can be.
See you later, huh?
What are you doing on this ship? Get off.
Oh, no. Not after that intriguing conversation I just heard.
How much did you hear?
That I added it to the gas assault Papa Luau threw at me. It'd be enough to nail you and Loverboy here for conspiracy to commit murder.
I don't know what you're talking
The
about.
point is, I know what you two were talking about.
Listen to me. You've got to believe me.
I don't have to, but try me anyway.
I admit that Em and I... Well, I did get involved with him. It was because Ralph turned into another man after we were married.
This probably marks the first time in history that an icicle melted in Port-au-Prince.
Please, let me finish. When my marriage went to pieces, I had to do something or go crazy. To see Ralph drinking up all the champagne on the island was just more than I could take. I was going to divorce him and leave with Em, but we weren't going to murder him.
You know, Chapter 1 has so many holes in it, it could have been printed by a punch press. You don't worry about landing in prison with your motive showing when all you're planning is divorce.
You do when people are waiting for your husband to die under mysterious circumstances. That's why I was trying to make Em go away. If Ralph died, who would look any farther than the erring wife? Unless Em was hiding something.
Can you lock this cabin from the outside?
Yes. What are you going to do? You aren't going to lock me in here?
No, just your playmate. You're coming with me.
Where?
To Papa Luau's. I want to hear what kind of a story you tell in front of him.
You don't believe me?
No. With $150,000 at stake, I don't even believe myself. There's a shack. You go in first. May not be heroic, but it's the best way I can think of to catch his reaction when he sees it. Come on, go ahead. Go on in.
Who is it come to Paplua's door? Who are you, woman?
Well, Mr. Dollar, are you satisfied?
Not quite.
And you did not believe. Why you are here? You wish again to see the power of my smoke?
Let's just drop the act, Papa. I know what you threw in the fire.
Was my bokor smoke? You not yet believe?
A good man from a police laboratory can sift enough out of those ashes to know it was film.
What is this you say?
I say that I've got enough on you, you old fake, to put you in the local pokey.
Who dare speak that to Papua?
And that's where you're going to go if you don't cooperate. Now, that's a promise.
What is it you want?
Did somebody put you up to this cursed business that Ralph Gordon is supposed to be under?
A man of your race. Now go. That is all.
It's not enough. What was his name?
I not know the name.
What did he look like then?
My eyes were closed.
Nuts. Come on. I'm taking you into town if I have to drag you by the hair.
No, don't touch me. I will tell you how this is. It is true, I do not know the name or the face. He come to me. He ask me when comes next rain and wind. I tell him last night. But it's tonight. The storm come with the seat. He tell me he needs storm to close portholes in the ship. He say, if I bring this curse, I will be best Ogan on 80 because it kill white man. That is difficult. That is all. Now you go.
How about the film for the fire? Did he give it to you?
That is true, not long before you come.
Well, get rid of it, Papa, before you lose your license to operate.
You go now. Pablo will be alone. Go now.
All right, Mrs. Gordon, all right. Let's not stay for the music.
Could you make head or tail of what he said?
What goes into your husband's cabin?
Nothing but food and wine. Mostly wine.
Who fixes his meals?
I do. Our cook left us.
Yeah? Where does the wine come from? You said it was champagne, didn't you?
Yes. It always comes from the same place, a liquor shop in town, a case at a time. Nothing makes any sense. What are you going to do?
All I can do. Try every angle. That's not all I'm going to try in that liquor shop. Expense account item 8, $4.50, 2 quarts of rum, the purchase of which helped loosen the tongue of the proprietor who had been supplying Ralph Gordon's champagne. And the words that poured out weren't exactly intoxicating, but they sent me staggering to the nearest phone.
Yes, hello.
Dr. Gordon, this is Dollar.
Good heavens, Dollar, I've been wondering about you. What have you learned?
Well, first tell me this. What would happen to a man if he was in a ship's cabin on a stormy night with all the portholes closed, and there was a lot of dry ice in there with him?
What? What was that?
A small room, no ventilation, a lot of dry ice. A lush, maybe passed out. What would happen?
Good Lord. Dry ice is solidified carbon dioxide. If enough of it evaporated into the room...
The lush would not be bothered by a hangover the next morning because he wouldn't wake up, right?
Exactly. The gas, although not toxic, would force the oxygen from the atmosphere, and the result would be asphyxia. What are you getting at, Dollar?
Well, that curse your brother is suffering from is very scientific. The champagne he's been getting has been chilled by dry ice, about 5 pounds per case. One went out just before the storm broke.
Good Lord. It may be just coincidence, but Ralph's wife and that bosun...
Yeah, I know. For a bosun, he'd make a very good chemist. They sent for a pull motor. If it's too late for your brother, maybe I can use it. Hey, Cap, come on, will you?
Ahoy, sonny. Set up around, George, for my shipmate and me. This is rum weather, sonny.
Never mind around, Cap. You got to row me out of that yacht again.
What? In this weather? I wouldn't ask old Neptune himself to set out on a night like this.
Come on, Cap. I'm in a hurry. Here's $20.
I want time off the water. Oh, what did you say?
I didn't think it could rain any harder than it had been, but it did. Visibility was 0. But about 20 minutes out, Cap spotted her riding lights.
There she lies, sonny.
We were on target, but so was somebody else. A searchlight stabbed out at us.
Hey, this sounds like Prohibition days. Who's giving us the broadside?
I can't tell.
I'll lay a pelican hook over his head if I get my hands on him. Oh, Cap! I got my left leg.
Get down the bottom, Cap. I'm going over the side. There was nothing to do but swim, so I swam. I tried to remember how many shots had been fired, and that's where I made my mistake. There was a lull in the shooting, which I took to mean that the gun was empty, so I thrashed my way to the ladder. But when I got there, the first thing I saw after I'd shaken the water out of my eyes was the muzzle of a rifle. The face looking down the barrel at me belonged to brother Thomas Gordon, M.D.
Sorry, Dollar. Killing you wasn't in my plan. But now it'll have to be done.
I was waiting for a bullet to come my way, but instead the doctor did.
Are you all right, Dollar?
I'll thank you later for spoiling his aim.
Forget it. That's me, big-hearted M.
Say, get a boat hook on the doctor. He's our prize fish. Don't let him get away. I grabbed a fire axe out of its case on my way to Ralph Gordon's cabin. If it needed ventilating, I knew one quick way to do it. I didn't check for oxygen. I took a deep breath, held it, and went in. The cabin was littered with wine bottles, and in one corner, in an open case, was the dry ice that was in the process of cooling Gordon off for good. He was stretched out on his bunk. I hefted him to my shoulder and used the last of my breath getting him out of there.
What's the matter with him?
Come on, help me to get him stretched out.
Right.
Come on, give me a hand, will you?
Yeah.
Maybe we can save a policyholder. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Expense account item 9, $30. Cover charge at a hospital, where I put the revived Gordon under the care of a doctor, not his brother. His brother happened to be resting in a jail cell at the time, waiting the formal charge of attempted murder. Motive, the family fortune. Item 10, same as item 9. Same hospital where they patched up Cap Regan. Item 11, $40. An ounce of voodoo perfume for the lovely but sometimes chilly Edwina. Maybe if she tries that kind of magic on her husband, he'll spend less time with the bottle joy and more with her kind. And expense account item 12, $148.70. Return trip to Hartford. Expense account total, $424.70. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien may soon be seen in the Columbia picture 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Earl Lee, Willard Waterman, Ted DeCorsia, Charlotte Lawrence, Lou Krugman, Byron Kane, Dick Ryan, and Clayton Post. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There'll be a bright new show on CBS this Wednesday night. It's called the ABCs of Music, and the star is Robert Q. Lewis with Ralph Flanagan's orchestra. You'll find Robert Q. and Ralph Flanagan taking over while Bing Crosby is on vacation. So join them on most of these same CBS stations this Wednesday for the ABCs of Music. Beginning next week, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, will be heard at this same time on Thursday nights. Thursday nights for Johnny Dollar. This is CBS, where you hear suspense every Thursday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this is the second Charles Russell script that they have gone ahead and they've adapted to Edmund O'Brien. And this time, I think it went off much better. I think coming into this episode after nearly 4 months of having done Johnny Dollar, and the writers writing for Edmund O'Brien in this role, they really, I think, were a lot more confident and a lot more able to adapt the material. O'Brien delivered it flawlessly. If you had not heard the Charles Russell episode, you would not have known anything was afoot. The big change, I think, in this episode was the change of the phony voodoo person. In the Charles Russell version, it was Madame LaSalle. Here we have Papa Luar. And I do wonder why they rewrote that. That was an interesting twist. We also, I think, may have found out what happened to the Los Angeles story. They began to promote that movie on the show a few weeks back. And now we get another movie, 711 Ocean Drive. And I think it's fair to surmise that the Los Angeles story was the working title for the movie that would be 7-Eleven Ocean Drive, and that would be released in July. And from what the online reviews say on IMDb, it was kind of a dark noir film with O'Brien playing kind of a conflicted anti-hero character. All right, well, we have some comments. Doug emails in from St. Louis. Did you notice that Floyd the Barber, Howard McNear, appeared in recent episodes of Let George Do It, Murder and One to Go, and Johnny Dollar, The Pearl Carassa Matter? I enjoy all the podcasts the shows you deliver as podcasts, especially Dragnet. Well, thanks a lot, Doug. I have to admit, I don't necessarily think about Howard McNear, but that was one of the great things about McNear as an actor. He was one of these great character actors we've discussed, along with Paul Frees and Virginia Gregg. It wasn't necessarily that you would notice them. It was their ability to be unnoticed and to do it so well. And he's actually appeared throughout our runs on both Let George Do It and yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Of course, his most famous radio role was as Doc on Gunsmoke. But he appears throughout every detective show we can think of. He's been in Nero Wolfe, The Lineup, Philip Marlowe. It's an impressive list of credits. And he's able to do it so well, was able to do it so well, again, by his ability to take a lot of characters with both conspicuous and inconspicuous characteristics. Really a lot of flexibility required. All right, well, I have examined another radio show for possible future inclusion. The show is Crime Doctor. And I've decided against doing it. I actually thought listened to a couple episodes. I thought that it was fairly well written. It's from the World War II era. It tended, though, not to be so much a detective story as a crime story. The two episodes I heard were somewhat reminiscent of The Whistler, but not done quite as well. The detective doesn't come in till the end, the crime doctor, until after the crime's committed. And it's not really like a Columbo Battle of Wits type show. Rather, it ends up being usually a fairly simple clue, and sometimes a kind of hard clue to figure out if you're listening to the show over the radio. So we won't go with Crime Doctor. I will say, anybody who thought that Joe Camel was marketing cigarettes to kids, one thing that struck me is Philip Morris actually had a Johnny the Newsboy, which basically a cute sounding kid who would sell their cigarettes on 3 different radio programs. So it's kind of like, interesting. All right, well, that'll wrap it up. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, listen for some instructions on how to make sure your vote counts before September 1st begins, and we begin to decide which show will follow Father Brown in November. Send your comments to Box 13 at greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.